Trusty ape, trusty ape. Down there, I think. Boy, I had it right on the thing I wanted to watch, and Alright. So I have no idea how I found this video, because I wasn't even subscribed to this channel, but now I am. I already watched
True South.
this. We're gonna go back because this is fun. This is like a year old almost, and we're just gonna appreciate the way this guy starts the video. Okay.
Good, we are live. So let me check that it's working. It's working, I can hear myself. Alright, hi everyone and welcome to our transmission for April. I think that
I think it's April.
killing that word, but the first month of the year, April. Yeah.
Wait, did you just say the first month of the year?
Doesn't sound, but anyway, here we are. And so as, let's get into it. I set an alarm, because in 1 hour I have to leave, so, good. Let's get into the channeling.
Howdy, Tog. Good to see you. Not sure whether he's meditating or channeling. What exactly is going on here? He's gonna do this for a few minutes. Taking a nap. Hey, kitten. I texted you. Yeah.
Here?
Okay, it was almost over. I was like, not sure how long he goes on like this. A lot of heavy breathing.
The Yeshua Collective here. Welcome everyone to this transmission. Yeah. As always, in any circumstances, in any way we communicate with the human collective, we are always
Wait,
joyful.
so he is channeling now a non-human entity, apparently, what are they called? And they are transmitting to us?
Here. Welcome everyone.
Let me just try to make sure I'm getting this correct.
The Yeshua Collective here.
What collective? Some collective.
Welcome everyone to this transmission. Yeah. As always, in any circumstances, in any way we communicate with the human collective, we are always joyful to share with you. So the Yeshua collective is a collective like the human collective, and we have a lot of joy in connecting with you. It's our passion, it's our decision to be of service to your human collective. In your evolution, in your becoming a new version of human, on your path, and that path is going to lead you into the unknown. For you, the unknown of a different way of expressing the human, your individuality and your collective, both. And we have decided to support you, to guide you, to give you advice, and to look after you. That is what we do. That it's from us that your experience with the being Jesus comes from.
What? Your experience with Jesus comes from this collective. Hey, Silverwolf. Hey, good to see you. There's some strange stuff going on here. So this is not it's not your usual everyday YouTube video.
We are originating Jesus as a human being. So Jesus is part of the human collective in some sort of way, but he is also part of the Yeshua collective. And through these experiences, we express, we offer our light to enlighten the human collective. What it's done with that light is what it's done with that light. We are not in control of what you decide to do, to believe, to express. After receiving our support.
He's getting sleepy. Just get a little sleepy here.
Our guidance, our help. We are a collective that expresses a lot of joy, love, support, as a choice, as a way of being. That's our expression. That's how we do it. You see, you as a human collective, you have a lot. You have your specificities, like emotions, like separation from your true nature, your true self. Like this way, you have your reality, your experience. We are expressing joy, passion. We are of service. And that is what we are. We do not question it. We do not.
Do you think he's really channeling like an interdimensional or extraterrestrial being or something, or is this guy just talking out of his ass?
Need to know as you do the whys, the wheres, the hows, those kind of things. We don't need to express it. And that's all that we know, because that's what we are. So when it comes to our experiences with you, that is part of our journey.
What experiences, bro? What do you think he's talking out of his ass? Me too. What is he talking about?
It is part of the way we choose to express ourselves. And it's a joy
I also wonder if I should like turn captions on, if that'll help or make it worse.
for us to be able to be of service in your ascension, what you call your ascension. What is your discovery of your true nature? What you really are.
What am I really?
That everything that you are expressing as a collective is part of that journey of discovery. Imagine we, the Yeshua collective, we express the unconditional.
Actually, I thought you said the Yeshua collective. Oh my god, that would be more funny because closed captions don't type. Yeah, exactly. I've already seen a couple errors there, but I was wondering like whether he was saying Yeshua collective, and I think that is accurate. That's what he's saying. So
That's what we are, unconditional.
are you saying that Jesus wasn't part of the Yeshua collective? He was part of the human collective. I was like, what? The fuck are you talking about?
Collective expresses the unconditional. So the human collective does express the unconditional. That's what you do as a collective. But you, as individuated entity that are perceiving the separation, you do not understand the collective. And hence, you do not understand the unconditional. And many experiences that you are having collectively, they are coming from a collective decision, let's call it that way. Collective movement will be.
What you're saying that people have, there's this collective, not people, right, have decided, like predetermined the human condition? Like what?
More appropriate, where the experience is experienced by all of you. Because it's a collective decision of experiencing
It's the Yeshua collective's decision.
what is happening. So you experience it. And often those experiences are not understood by you as individual, because you perceive them as negative or you perceive them as bad, with a lot of sorrow, of loss. Whereas those experiences are created by your collective. So you collectively decided to have that experience.
Wait. So we decided to have the experience before we had the experience?
Now that experience is not going to have a immediate or a clear meaning to you. But when you look at some of your collective experiences, you can see that though the beginning of the experience is
Hey, Math Pig. Good to see you, Math Pig.
maybe sometimes,
Freaking on through.
many times, an experience of pain, loss, that leads your collective
He's getting
into
very sleepy. This entity makes him very sleepy.
then having another experience, and that experience is connected with a beginning that you deem as terrible. That is not necessarily something that you had to experience in the pain. Remember that the pain is something that you are not letting go of. You are so still holding pain as necessary to your experience. So in your experiences, whether collective or individuated, you will find pain often at the beginning as preparing your path. So you
This dude's loaded. Just took a few fat bomb rips. Before
can
he started
have,
again.
there are examples of this. There are examples like the AIDS crisis. That's an example of a collective experience. That has been a experience from the human point of view of sorrow, loss, pain, desperation. So many people have left dying of that disease. But that then has prepared the way for an advance in your human rights. Was that necessary? No, it was not necessary. It could have been done in another way.
Yeah, so this is interesting. You're saying that the development of AIDS paved the way for an advancement in human rights. How so?
That other way is a way without pain. And you will not have understood the absence of pain to have these rights, these new human rights advances appearing
What
into
advances? What are we talking about?
your reality. Where is the pain? No pain, no gain. That's your credo. So you experience that. And you have other examples like that of collective experiences beginning in pain, sorrow, loss, desperation, but that have led into change. That doesn't diminish or take away the experience that has been had by those beings that had the pain, that had the loss, that had the desperation.
I can't tell if he was crying there or yawning again.
But that gives you a glimpse into the difference of your individual experience and the experience of the collective.
Individuated individual.
Again, the collective experiences something that is called the unconditional. So, the
This is just bonkers. This guy's just rambling at this point.
unconditional experience, an experience that doesn't know conditions. So from the point of
Something
view
about his energy, though, his aura, you know, it works.
of the collective, of the unconditioned, pain, sorrow, loss are the same as happiness, as
Shit's all relative, bro.
positive, as being glad, right? Those things that you see, perceive as opposite. There are no opposite.
Silverwolf is
There are
definitely on something and not sharing.
only
He's high on God, as James Brown would say.
experiences. The unconditional experience. And the unconditional is not understood mostly by the individuals because you think always in condition. The unconditional means no conditions. That's the meaning of the word. So there are no conditions. Absolutely no condition. As soon as you try, you're putting a condition on it. So that in the end, it's not unconditional. When you are looking at the unconditional, it means that for the unconditional experience is that the pain or
You
the
can't have an unconditional experience. Experience is based on whatever like conditions exist, right? Like that doesn't make sense.
joy are used as a vector of change. One or the other are equal in the movement of the collective. In the creation of a collective experience, there is no difference between pain or joy. So then, for you, the individual, the question becomes, why do we experience so often the pain? Because that is the belief that you are holding, that you are so still keeping with you. When you release your need for pain and suffering, then your experience, your evolution, your
I feel
change.
like he's in one of these like you know, what's this like the crossover, there's like this like meshing of like Buddhist ideas and Christianity, and he's kind of like in that realm of thinking, I guess. So he's trying to like, you know, do like the whole, I don't know, that's what it sounds like to me.
Will be implemented in a much more pleasant way. That's available to you already. But all habits have long shadows. So you keep suffering because you keep telling yourself that you do not know how to do it in another way. Suffering is not necessary. No, no, no. Not necessary. But as long as you keep the belief systems, you will keep the suffering. And again, from the point of view of the unconditional, there is no difference in having a collective experience starting from suffering or starting from joy, happiness, well-being. And your evolution now is in understanding this difference, perceiving that you have the choice to do what you do in a different way. that is available.
Yeah, some of the stuff he says sounds, somewhat wise and enlightened. I think he's just cribbing from like different like teachers he's probably read or heard before. He's just like repeating talking points, and it's very Buddhist for sure. Um, yeah, like Buddhist inspired.
To you, doing your experiences with joy is possible and available, and it's a choice that you have to make for yourself. Do you want the suffering? Do you want the joy? Knowing that those emotions are revolving for some of you in a way where you are not expressing them with the turmoil that you generally express in your emotions. You're evolving your emotions into something different because you do not need to be a drama queen to
That
jump,
even made him giggle.
to dive into the drama, into the losing yourself, into the pain, into the emotion, so that your emotion change in quality, where you do not lose your faculties.
Yeah, no, he's got a valid point there too. The fact that we can, shift so drastically in our emotional state in such a short span of time, and then like noticing like why that happens, what triggers that event, that effect.
But you are able to have your experience, have your emotion, and your emotion is different, feels different, because it doesn't feel like a bomb exploding into your chest of energy that you cannot handle. It's a new sort of emotion that you can handle. It's the emotion that is joy, but a joy that is unconditional. And that joy that is unconditional is a joy that can last, because it doesn't need a bomb to explode into your chest in order to be felt for 5 seconds before disappearing. The joy.
So I mean, I just like there's some wisdom sprinkled into what he's saying, but we just have to remember that he started off the video on a 1 hour on a 1 hour timer, right? Like, he said he set the timer. He had some other shit to do, and then he sat there for a couple of minutes and like meditated, and then he came out of it before he started this whole diatribe, claiming to be like channeling the Yeshua collective. So let's not let that fact escape us.
Unconditional joy is a joy that you can feel constantly. And that is the quality, the difference. And when you experience that shift, that change, the quality of your experiences are changing as well. You go from being a child into being a master, into being someone that is mastering the experience. And you can understand with this why it is so interesting for us as a collective to connect with you and to exchange with you, because we are at the same moment as we are supporting you and giving you our life, our light.
Throughout this video, just so many yawns. He's very, very tired. Maybe you should just go take a nap.
We are learning from you, from your experience, which is different from ours, which is different from every other collective. Every collective, every experience has its different way of being expressed. So when you look at us exchanging with you, being there for you, and sharing our life to you, when we are doing that, at the same moment, you are exchanging with us. We are bringing you, you are observing us, you are learning from us. And that is the same thing that we are doing with you.
Wait, who are you and who's us? What?
And that exchange from collective to collective is an exchange between equals. We are not a superior collective that is looking down to a human collective that is inferior. We are experiencing an exchange between equal partners, as you will call it. And that is the way you exchange with everyone, with every collective, with every being, with every gestalt with which you exchange. You always do that as equals, because there is nothing else. It's unconditional exchanging with unconditional.
He's a wordsmith, ain't he? Just so much redundancy. That's how you know, like, there's certain points he's repeating over and over, and that's when you can tell when he's kind of deviating from any kind of like coherent thought. He just, like, puts together some like like mutually exclusive redundancy. They, conditional, the unconditioned, conditional, unconditional, whatever you're saying.
The only one that is seeing conditions is the human, because that is part of the human experience, of the human believing.
It's like the known unknown, the what, how many things do you know that you don't know?
In such things as conditions, expressing conditions, and believing that everyone in the universe has to be a mirror of what the human is. We are not. That you experience as human is specific to human. Your form, the human form, the physicality, it exists only for you. That's your expression of reality, of creation. We're not doing that. We are different. In a different way, we create.
We are different in a different way? What?
And that is true for every other being with which you may interact, and you will interact. So when your system of government, of power, of economics, it's yours. No one else has that. We're not interested, because you're having that experience. And by you having that experience, We only have to do one thing to understand what that experience is. Watch you. And that tells us everything we need to know concerning the experience.
Oh, there goes again. It's making me tired.
So you see, that is how it is done. When there is a collective that is having an experience, there is no reason for every other collective to experience the same thing. Because if that were the case, everyone would be the same species. Why create
So you got different collectives experiencing different things at the same time. Okay.
different or having the same experience? Why create different experiences and different beings where everyone is having the same experience? You just
And
create.
it's just like smuggling in your creator hypothesis, along with whatever other claims you're making, right? Saying a lot of words.
The same experience, and that's all you do. So you don't need anything else. But creation is not the repeating of one in every other. But that, for now, is a understanding that is very difficult for the individual.
Yep, it is. It's difficult to understand. Okay, so about halfway through this, we'll take a break and go to this other rando video I saved here.
The merger falls apart without a united front, Oliver.
Then let's unite. Marry me.
I'm completely shocked after watching this interview to see a scientist finally.
Social media.
So this is Destiny with Alex Jones, apparently at Mind's Best Debate Con or whatever. And so Alex Jones and Destiny. I've seen a little bit of this before, but it's been a while and I don't remember it very well. We'll see if there's anything interesting in here.
Nothing. Let people choose what they want to see. I think we're all adults here. If something's bad, the audience and the market will speak for itself. Obviously, there's the concept of hurting children. That obviously is an exception. Obviously, there are government institutions that run international child trafficking organizations. So obviously, are you going to entrust those organizations to go after that? That's another question and conundrum that I think a lot of people are asking themselves. But other than the exception of children being hurt, I think we are adults and we could actually decipher and decide what we want to listen to and don't want to listen to. Treat us like human beings. We shouldn't be treated like babies.
That's a big box, though. Like, what can hurt children is a big,
the obvious one is, of course, being sent to Jeffrey Epstein's island or being trafficked by, many of the intelligence agencies and sent off to individuals like, Bill Gates and others who, get to do whatever they want with them. I think that's the distinction there.
You would say that you should ban child porn?
Yes.
What about, okay, well, what do you...
Let's get a round of applause for that. Banning child porn. Yeah, there we go.
But the next question...
Yeah, no, Alex Jones is definitely a douche. We were trying to, anyway.
Though, is who's going to do the banning?
Yes.
I think it should probably be human beings should be doing the banning and not an algorithm or a bot or something like that. I think these should be human beings.
So Alex Jones is not yet on the panel, so might just skip through.
Beings checking this stuff out and
I want to see if he says anything crazy.
taking a look for child porn, if that's what we're looking to ban.
Agreed, yeah.
Yeah.
Like, AI can help find it, but have a human layer of protection.
It always has to be a human layer of protection, especially when we're talking about something as sensitive as actual free speech.
Although the issue with putting a human in charge is that,
Hey, Pixie, good to see you.
firstly, definitions can change. So what's porn today might be normalized in 10 years. And do
And we do need standards. That's something that I think is paramount.
you think they're tied together?
I don't know what that looks like.
The act, it'll go to like a group of people to decide.
That's an interesting concept.
The way he's edited this.
What kind of jury? Like a grand jury that would be potentially
No,
impaneled?
The title of the video is Alex Jones joins panel to debate Destiny.
It's a randomized set.
I mean, I think the issue, I don't know if we're talking like in a dream world or as it exists right now. I think the problem is once a platform grows to a certain size, having a human element to moderation is just like prohibitively expensive. I think that's why for, Jesus, over a decade, when did Steam start automating their bans? I think having like human people involved in every single moderation action just becomes prohibitively expensive for any sufficiently large tech company, I think.
But we need the protection of human interpretation.
Yeah, there's a lot of activity. I understand the point there. I mean, but I do, I think some element of law enforcement being involved in that, right? Like, should increase those numbers. So you got both ends, like internally, the companies should be moderating the content. And then you also have externally, like law enforcement and whistleblowers, like, you know, even like civilian whistleblowers on the outside who are looking for that and flagging that, you know, like.
In order to secure free speech. I mean, without free speech, we really have nothing at all. It's like pretty much the only thing that matters.
I mean, well, I think there's a lot of things that matter besides free speech. But I guess the question becomes like, is a company's job to safeguard what I guess we're using in common parlance free speech, because we're not really talking about the First Amendment right now. Should it even be a company's, I guess, prerogative to guard free speech, right?
I was talking pretty much about the First Amendment.
Well, the First
I do
Amendment
think it's
says
pretty
nothing
paramount.
for being banned on like Twitter or YouTube, right?
Well, because of like the whole private company thing.
Well, because it's not the government thing, right?
Yeah, but you don't have to be the government to censor.
Well, no, but you're violating their free speech by demanding that they're not allowed to censor, right? That's the whole point of having freedom of speech, is that the government shall make no law abridging somebody's freedom of speech. If Twitter doesn't want to host your speech, Twitter has the right to do that.
Censorship goes far beyond like just, I mean,
These are not people.
companies, look, here's the thing. It doesn't matter if it's just the government. I mean, censorship can happen.
I don't know, this whole idea like companies don't have rights in that sense. They're like, no, we like, you know, we reserve the right to refuse service to anyone, so they can do that, you know. They just make up any bullshit reason. They don't even have to, but you know, I mean, the fact that they're, you know, talking about what type of speech they will allow on the platform, right? It's like, it shows that there's a moral element, not just in providing the service, right? Like, but in like putting up boundaries, right? Like in that sense, there's this boundary that's being put in place. So, like, no, companies are not people, but they are run by people, right? And if those people want to operate in a way that aligns with their moral standards, right? You don't want to be like, you don't want to work at an abortion clinic and be a pro-life Christian, because that wouldn't make any sense, right? Or something like that, right? So that's kind of the same stuff that the social media tech companies are dealing with.
At a non-governmental level.
Yeah, but then it wouldn't be the First Amendment, because the First Amendment is about the government. If we want to talk about other types of censorship, we can, but the government is governed by the First Amendment, right?
Well, the term government really means mind control. You know, mente is like Latin, I think, for mind, and govern is Latin for control. So, like, look at what the system of control is. And at this state, it's an algorithmic code or multitude of codes that are governing the way we behave. So you could make an argument that we would amend the Constitution to include other forms of government than the
Okay,
political
well, when
system.
Clarence Thomas has a brief that he writes to the Supreme Court about whether or not the government is mind control, I'll take a look at that, I guess.
You tell him, Ian. But I think we're learning right now with Twitter specifically that free speech is popular. And when we look at the censor going to Alphabet and all these companies and saying, you know what, we're going to make sure that you guys are going to lose business and we're going to silence people because we don't like them. And I think right now Twitter is certainly challenging that notion that speech needs to be protected, needs to be
The
censored.
problem is that like most of the people involved in the project don't want, like, so it is like offensive to the majority of the users and the people who are actually operating the platform. Like whether it's like on this, so like the platforms themselves are just becoming more divisive because more individuals are being, like feeling like personally attacked, by something they see on the platform, and they're being responsive to that,
Because I think they're doing better than ever. I think the platform is thriving. I enjoy the platform personally myself, speaking from a biased perspective, but I think they're really showing and leading the way, saying free speech is the answer, and it could also be profitable, and it could also be successful at the same time, allowing a perfect harmony of profit and respect of individuals to speak their mind.
Are you looking to establish your business using an address other than your home? Well, at iPulse.
I think something that I spoke about earlier, real quick, was when we have these conversations, I think it's very important that we're firmly rooted in reality. And conservatives have this mantra that they, I guess, repeat to themselves at midnight in the mirror with all the lights turned off, that go woke, go broke, go woke, go broke, go woke. It's not true.
It is true.
It's absolutely not true.
It is
These
true.
companies online that are
Vanguard just pulled back and said, after a decade of pursuing ESG as the third most powerful investment firm in the world, we are leaving ESG.
We're not ESG. We're not talking about ESG. Please, guys,
this is what woke is. Environmental social governance.
The reality
what do you think social is?
The reality is that online, having aggressive moderation platforms that are trying to ban speech that a lot of you guys want to protect, that I want to protect, that I think is cool to protect, is actually a pretty profitable decision. If it wasn't, they wouldn't do it.
What about in publishing? What about in publishing, not in social media? What about censorship in publishing?
I don't know as much about books.
If a private company is
There's also the issue of monetization, right? Like with any of these platforms, it's not just the platform themselves, but they also have to appeal to the sensitivities of the people who are advertising on their platforms, right? So that's like another consideration, right? Because they're dumping money into this endeavor, and so they're concerned with what they are being associated with once they put money into that, and advertise and put their name, next to that brand.
On behalf of the government in censoring speech, is that a violation of the First Amendment?
If the government was telling people to censor people, I guess
that is what happened with Twitter over the last 2 years.
We saw that.
Is this pre-Musk buying X? No, I don't think it is. It's like less than a year old, I believe. Oh no, yeah, it is April 15th, 2022. So yeah, I think that is prior to Musk's buying it.
We saw that. Sure. So we saw that with the Twitter files, that is absolutely not the case. If you actually read any of them past the actual tweets, the government was not making explicit requests to censor political speech on Twitter. That did not happen.
Patently false. It's patently false. It's patently false. Is it okay for the government to ask a company to censor?
Well, it depends on what the censorship request is for.
No, that is a yes or no question. Is it okay for the government to ask the company to censor?
It depends on what you're trying to censor. If it's somebody making a death threat, yeah, that's probably okay. If it's pictures of Hunter Biden's cock, which I know you guys are all real excited about, it's probably okay. Yeah, it depends on what the censorship request is. Yeah.
So, okay, keep going with that. So when a journalistic output is withheld.
Yeah, so this, I'm looking it up now. This is April 2022, and Musk bought Twitter in October of 2022. So yeah, a few months prior.
From disclosing a story that could be detrimental to a presidential candidate, and they did not carry that same treatment to the other side. And it was not just Hunter Biden's cock. It was the fact that there was a potential that there was illegal drugs, there was underage prostitutes, there was a whole slew.
There was influence peddling.
It's his son.
So what? Who gives a shit?
Who gives a shit about his son who's involved in his business dealings, who gets $50,000 a month working for Burisma in a country that we have a proxy state set up in? How is that not involved with Biden? Are you kidding me?
And there are major
So the
polls and
reality
studies.
is, so the reality told us to censor this story. The government never made a request to Twitter censored because of the government. It was a compliment.
Of self-censorship. Just because that there was government intimidation.
They did not intimidate them. I have had conversations with the FBI. If the FBI was outside my house, they're going to intimidate me more than 37% of the
I ask you a
time.
The next segment, so we'll just skip to. Oh, yeah, crashes the panel. All right, 12 minutes.
But we got a special guest joining us. But I just want to ask you a question.
Steven requested
They told
we had
me-
Alex on tonight, so I thought,
They told me to get here at 8 o'clock. I didn't even go on stage at 8. So I'm only 30 seconds late. Sorry.
Alex, do you think that what was the exact question? Do you think that there's things that should be censored online, Alex? I guess, how do you want to ask it, Steven? How would you ask Alex this, where we're at right now?
I'm not even sure what I would ask Alex right now.
I would just go back to 5 years ago where violent threats, specifically calling for violence, which is illegal already, and child porn and stuff like that, and people's hacked personal information. Those things are illegal. Things that are illegal, not our free speech. It's really simple.
Do you think that there are things that where it's like it's legal but
Not illegal. You're not getting charged. You're just getting kicked off a fucking platform.
unethical that should be pulled down?
No, I mean, I think it should be the Wild Wild West. That's what America and freedom is. And once you open the Pandora's
Wild West, them, like just randomly, lynching people in the streets, because without a trial, the Wild West like that.
box, everybody is going to say this is evil, another group's going to say that's evil. Conservatives are going to say ban this. Liberals are going to say ban that. This group's going to say ban this, and then it's special interest banning what they don't like. No, that's not what I want. I'm a big enough adult that I want to see everything. People say, well, then don't let the kids see it. Ban TikTok. No, don't let your kids on TikTok be their parent.
So I'm curious, what is your enforcement mechanism? You want to go to Twitter and you want to say you're not allowed to deplatform certain speech or ban certain actors. What do you want to do to keep them from doing that? Do you want to make it illegal for you to ban people that you disagree with, that do hate speech? Like, what does the enforcement mechanism look like there?
Well, hate speech is really just a modern corporate name. I mean, when U.S. senators call for nuclear war.
Hate speech is corporate? Like, what the fuck are you talking about? It's derived from the fact that people use derogatory, demeaning speech to, it's a tool of oppression, right? To have these names that you call people that are demeaning, right? That refers to some aspect of their character, right? Them as a person, some aspect of their identity that they hold dear to them, right? And it's the same as if I was to go around, stand outside churches and, tell, people they're all idiots or something, like that type of demeaning speech,
Russia, to me, that's hate speech. But they still have a right to say that and be crazy people calling for World War III. So one person's hate speech is somebody else's love speech. So as long as somebody isn't saying, go shoot this up or go attack this group, let the KKK, who are a bunch of idiots, or let the new Black Panther Party, they're basically a black KKK group, let them sound like idiots off of their own little echo chamber. We know what they're saying. We know what they're doing. We're watching them in case they're about to get violent. Everybody knows in all the studies, you suppress speech, it puts stuff underground. You wanted the old American idea that was really the vanguard, that was the Renaissance. We call it old now, but really it's the new thinking that we forgot about and went back to the old thinking of tyranny, is to let everything out there and believe in the public to choose what makes sense. And in that world, whether it's the new Black Panther Party or the KKK, we're going to reject
The problem is the rate of production and consumption, right? It's not, like in the old times, yay old times, way back then, it took a lot to publish something, right? To put something into print and then reproduce that and get people to read it took a lot more effort than it does today. Any jack off today can just go and make a TikTok or a YouTube video or write some blog, and it can say whatever, right? And it's not as difficult if you're, like savvy and you have, some a personality where you can attract people to that platform, right? And just say any old thing and they will believe you. So there's more snake oil out there, so to speak, right? Like it's that the information available varies so widely, and there's no sourcing and all of this stuff. So the technology boom really like makes this question a lot more difficult than like what you're talking about. It's not like some dude, with the printing press or some shit, we're talking about the internet here.
Those idiots, and we're going to embrace a civilization.
And you radicalize more people by censoring speech, and you put them off into farther corners of the internet where they become more radicalized. And that's why a more honest, transparent conversation and dialogue where we're able to have actual clarity on the issues and actually fix the wrongs and actually discuss the problems actually helps fix the larger issues that we're dealing with, rather than
what is the
censoring them.
enforcement mechanism? How do you keep Twitter from banning people that you don't want banned? What do you think should be?
You're at a tavern, and you run into Lynn Ray of the Succubus. She quests you on the event.
Should be done.
I think Minds is doing a great job. I think the way that Minds conducts itself,
are we talking about what to do about
I think the way
No,
that
I get it.
they decide these decisions is
You're
a great
asking
way
how
to
do we
address
do
it.
that? I mean, I think as a population, we have big corporations, we have think tanks, we have so-called fact-checking groups pressuring Twitter and Facebook and Instagram and Google and all its subsidiaries to censor. And I think as a population, we reject and we boycott and we stand against censors and we promote the platforms that are open and free. And then again, just 5-10 years ago, if a conservative got censored, the left was against it. If the left got censored, the right was against it. We have to go back to being unified and saying our speech is king, our right to see and watch and listen to what we want is paramount, because you're not censoring Alex Jones, or you're not censoring Luke Rudowski, or you're not censoring Jack Posobiec, or you're not censoring Tucker Carlson, or Naomi Wolf, or whoever.
It's like any, drunk at the bar who's, like shouting like racial slurs or something. It's like, you don't have to go home, but you can't stay here, good luck, put them out on the street. Like it's not, when you like talk about censoring, like you've been wronged here. Like, no, you don't have a right to be there in the first place. This is a private establishment, your views are not wanted here.
Yes, when you censor them, you're censoring our ability to hear what they're saying.
But you're also censoring anyone else who might speak up. So that's a big thing too. I mean, a liberal value, a very classical liberal value was that even if you disagree with someone's speech, you'll defend their right to express themselves. And that's a value that we need as Americans, and that's a value that we need online.
Exactly. Remember when the liberals and the Jewish law firms used to support the KKK marching? I mean, those liberal law firms.
There was a murder she wrote about that.
Absolutely. I mean, they didn't support the idiot KKK, but they said, we got to let these morons march or we lose all our rights, which was true.
And it's true now on Twitter.
It is.
I think sometimes there's a responsibility for the authority to crack down if like child porn goes up. Like the admin has to take that offline. That means needs to be some central authority needs.
Yeah, I think porn is a separate issue entirely. And again, like law enforcement needs to be, obviously they are involved and they should be, highly invested in that, and the platforms themselves have some degree of responsibility for certain.
Snag that.
Well, it's illegal.
Exactly. And spam, it's not illegal, but it's unethical. So some central authorities got to crack it. But it's
But what's central authority when the FBI has been
dismantle, what was it, the consumer protections, whatever, I can't remember maybe it was just Consumer Protection Bureau or something like that Doge, dismantled or whatever, I believe, correct.
uploading a lot of the content as well, and they've been running international trafficking operations like with Epstein for over 30 plus years.
Yeah, they were the ones who were protecting people from spam and spam calls and spam emails and shit.
Trust those same people to actually monitor?
Yeah, Luke Rudowski's right. How do we have the FBI that protected Epstein now being the policeman of child porn? I mean, I really think it's all up to us.
Yeah, I think it doesn't scale. That's what I was going to say, is the central authority crackdown method doesn't scale to the masses like Twitter, because it's too big for one guy to take control, whether that's the government or the head of state. So I think you need to decentralize the authority somehow as the system grows. And if that could be written into the system, the larger it gets, the wider the net of judges that can make the decision in aggregation.
Well, remember Elon Musk, like last week, that viral BBC clip, and he goes, okay, give me one example of what you're seeing. He goes, well, it's a little bit mean, or it's a little bit sexist. He said, well, how do you define what a little bit is? Soon everything is banned except what you want to be heard. I mean, it's impossible. And here's the thing. We all know this. You all know this. I remember Joe Rogan in like 2000 in Houston, and I'm watching him in a packed comedy club, and he said, mark my words.
One dude who whoops when he says Joe Rogan.
Within 10 years, Hollywood and corporate media are going to be dead, because on the internet, there's so many voices, so many choices, it can never compete with that level of Wild West freedom. And if you go back to 2010 and the numbers, that's really when corporate media died. That's really when Hollywood died. It's got endless funding and backers, but it's a zombie organization. It's already gone. So any attempt to bring in AI, any attempt...
Ladies, look at me. Now look at your man. Now look back at me. Now look at your man.
Attempt to suppress us, any attempt to shut down their competition is like a ghost dance. They're fighting a war they've already lost. So let's understand that. No amount of AI, no amount of BS is going to stop us, because AI is just plagiarism of everything we already made. So we program the AI ourselves. So when the viewers and listeners of this show realize
That's true. I think about when like AI gets this information, right? Like I've heard a lot of these AI songs that people have been making and stuff. And so when AI gets this information, right, it pulls from pre-existing data. Right, so it has to take some element of something that some person has already done, but that is essentially what people do. Like, there's no real there's not a string of music I think that you could create that hasn't already been done in some capacity, right? Like you're just kind of reimagining something that somebody else had done before you, whether or not you picked up on it like consciously or maybe similar ideas just come to different people, because you're using the same instrument and you've got similar human brains, right? That's why there's like certain rhythms that are catchy to everybody. Like as many times as you repeat that rhythm, people will automatically like stomp their feet and dance, right? Because there's just something in most human brains that works that way. Yeah.
Not the tail, you're the dog. And when you produce culture and you speak up, that's your defense mechanism to make sure you program the system.
Steven, do you think Alex should be let back on Twitter?
I don't want to be let back on Twitter. I like being the black sheep.
What was his specific ban for? Was it for the... Yeah, Tom.
That's a very important point you brought up. I was not banned for the thing everybody hears about me for. I was banned for criticizing Oliver Darcy, the mini-me, Brian Stelter. And it was actually Tim Pool, who was on with Joe Rogan and the head of Twitter, Jack Dorsey, and I forgot
Jay Gotti.
Yes. And they said he beat up a child on TV, and he was mean to a journalist, Oliver Darcy. And he called for using battle weapons against Antifa. None of that ever happened. They showed some random dude on ABC News when a kid's hitting him, and he in Missouri, and the guy looks a little like me, and another fat dude with a beard. He hits him, he falls down, and that's not me. That was talking about deep fake. It wasn't even a fake video. It wasn't me. And then I saw Oliver Darcy was everywhere getting me banned. I was still on Twitter. I said, how dare you get me banned everywhere, man? You're a jerk. The video's out there still. It's banned on Twitter. And then the other thing was, yeah, I'm Bill Hicks. No, it's because they got to ban Bill Hicks. But the third thing was, Antifa had gone to Tucker Carlson's house and broken the door down, was threatening his wife. And I said, I won't ever want to be violent. and never physically start an altercation. Like Obi-Wan Kenobi says, the force is for defense, never attack. But I said, I've got an instant access safe in my bedroom with a battle rifle, a shotgun, and a handgun. And if Antifa attacks my house, is burning my house down and trying to shoot me, I'm going to go out and defend myself. So I said, never attack Antifa, but defend yourself. Well, they never showed the clip whenever, all the shows put it on as a national news story. They just said Jones called for killing leftists with battle rifles. A $1 million challenge. Where did I say kill leftists with battle rifles? Never happened. Where did I beat up an 8-year-old in Missouri? Never happened.
Okay.
So that's all they've got. And then we've now learned, this is about me, but it's very interesting. Very interesting. They introduced in court with my $1.5 billion judgment against me, defaulted by the judge, and allowed to defend myself, already guilty. They entered in court 24 minutes of video, most of it from 9 years ago, of stuff that was edited clips out of context of me just saying the internet says this, what's going on?
It's weird. Most people would say it the other way around. They'd say like 9 or 10 years ago, but he was like 9 years ago. I don't remember, maybe.
That turns into I'm pissing on people's graves. I'm doing all these things I never did. And when they sued me and didn't get the evidence, they defaulted me and then said the new
pissing on people's graves. Like, is that like a hyperbole there? Like, are they talking about like the Sandy Hook kids and
model? And they're now doing that with Fox News and the Dominion lawsuit. And if you don't like Fox News, the judge says you're not giving me the right evidence. I'm going to default you. So you don't get a trial. You're guilty now. A jury decides how guilty you are. That's the weaponization of the judiciary. So then, when Hillary lost and Trump was about to win, they had a PR firm.
I don't know. He's been rambling for a while now, but it sounds like he's obfuscating, like just bringing up a bunch of random shit that doesn't mean anything. He's not actually making a point. He's just gonna babble.
Bragged about it. I didn't know this life. The cases. They hired a PR firm that does the UNPR. It's like the second biggest PR firm in the U.S. to run all these national stories everywhere about Jones is attacking people. He's peeing on graves. He's going after people. I'm like, no, I'm not. No, I'm not. It's like Joe Rogan when they go, he said the N-word. He's like, stop saying it, because they edit it all together.
Switch the laundry up here a bit.
And I kind of did say some of that, but not most of this. And I didn't know what was going on. And then they defaulted me. Then they did that. Then they wanted $2 trillion. Oh, you only get $1.5 billion. I don't have $5 billion. So I learned how the whole thing was not about me. It was about demonize free speech, demonize a populist. And when people don't stand up for Alex Jones, then all the dominoes fall. So I don't feel sorry for myself. I feel like I'm caught up in a really historical point. I don't have the incredible organization and focus and purity of Julian Assange, who I find no sin with, who I think did basically a perfect job. If he's free Julian Assange. He's a great guy.
If you've been posting on YouTube for over a year and are still struggling to blow up your channel, try this. I'm April Alter, and I've spent the last 4 years studying strategies that top YouTubers use to grow. And when it comes to getting clicks, there's one tried and true method that nearly everyone uses. Incorporating one quick element, the idea, the title, or the thumbnail, that has proof of prior success. And the easiest way to do this is by using Spotter Studio, a tool designed to help YouTubers come up with video ideas, titles, and thumbnails that are based on data that leads to better performance. And because Spotter Studio links directly to your channel, its AI can sort through billions of different YouTube videos to find outliers that are directly relevant to your channel. You'll never have to worry about having an unclickable title or thumbnail again. I've been using Spotter Studio for many months now, and it has saved me countless hours of time. To try out Spotter Studio's free trial, sign up today.
8-9 years in solitary confinement, almost dead. So anytime I feel sorry for myself that made a lot of mistakes, would go crazy on air and get drunk on air and everything, take mushrooms on air, and I'm like, God, I didn't say some crazy stuff, was not done to be mean. I look back on all that, I just say, I'm lucky this machine only did this to me, didn't use CIA sex operatives, didn't set me up, and didn't literally put me in a solitary confinement cell for 9 years. So I'm not a victim. Julian Assange is, and he's who we should be getting out of jail. And that's one of Trump's biggest faults, is he told Julian Assange in 2016, he said, Julian, if you've got the evidence of Hillary, I want you to release it now. And then he releases it, and they throw him under the prison. So at the end of the day, fuck Donald Trump for that. You know what I mean?
What I understand about the Twitter banning of you, Alex, is that you got banned for one reason, which was the stuff you were talking about. And then now Elon just doesn't want to let you on because he thinks that you were mean about the kids with the Sandy Hook crap.
No, I agree with Elon Musk. I should not be let back on Twitter.
Really? You think?
No, I'm dead serious.
But I don't like that one guy can have arbitrary authority. Like, I just feel like I don't like the way he's...
Well, no. What you're saying is totally true.
God, just completely hijacked. I guess he's the right person to do it, though. Whatever. I have some asshole to argue with.
But let me explain the 3D chess. No, I'm being dead serious. Elon says, I will not arbitrarily ban people. I will follow the law and the rules. Then he says, Alex Jones attacks dead kids, and Jesus said, if you do that, you should tie a millstone around your neck and be thrown in the ocean. So he's being hypocritical on his statement of him not making personal decisions. What he said there was a lie. But let's explain. It's a battery. When they ran tens of thousands, and that's conservative, of articles, thousands of national newscasts about what they said I did to kids that I didn't do. People don't know who Anna Blands is. They think I killed him, okay? I mean, literally, you think that name, I won't even say the name, they think me. So they've charged up this giant battery against free speech that's Alex Jones. He's freeing all the captives. He's doing great things at Twitter, changed the whole paradigm. I have to only salute him. If I was Elon Musk, I wouldn't go as far as to actually be thrown in the ocean with a millstone around my neck, but that's a little too far. I shouldn't be killed. Please don't call people to kill me. But I understand that if he did...
The liberals probably aren't calling for the capital punishment.
That they would have been able to shut down Twitter, overthrow what he did, and stop the revolution. So when they said, everybody kept going, free him, free him, free him, he goes, no, he's the sacrificial lamb. So it's almost like the Dark Knight. I get it. Because of all that demonization and that investment that I'm the devil, he goes, great, everybody else is free but him. We're going to...
See, that's the problem, too. Is like, to these guys, like, Twitter death is exile, right? Like, that's as good as, like, actually killing them, right? Is kicking them off of, you know, their favorite internet platform.
Safari, I'm not comparing myself to Christ, but I'm saying I get it. And so Elon Musk, never unban me. I love being the black sheep, and I get it. Free everybody else and just say, hey, I freed all them, but I kept that son of a bitch locked up. If everybody else gets free, we're going to win. And I think if he'd have done that, they'd have taken over Twitter. So Elon Musk made the right move.
Destiny, wait. Hold on, Ian. So Destiny, reinstate Alex or no?
Should he unban Alex or no?
Yes.
The reason why I asked was because I don't know what he was originally banned for. That's what I'm curious. I don't know why Elon Musk hasn't unbanned you.
Now you know.
Well, I don't know.
He thinks it was for...
Right now, they're saying, I guess Elon does have control of the company, but again, I saw April, again, in the... this says this was done in April of 2022, but according to the Google search I did, Elon didn't officially obtain control until October 2022. So I'm not sure if Alex Jones was reinstated or not to X. I imagine he was.
This was for that shooting in Connecticut, but I'm telling you...
Whether or not he uses it, I don't know.
These guys...
I really don't follow Alex Jones at all, so
these guys are smart news guys.
I do occasionally watch Destiny streams, and there's a lot of controversy around him right now, but I don't get involved in that. I don't know, it's out of my depth.
Tell him, Luke, it was for the things I said.
Here's my question, because I know we have a lot of Elon fans up here. Do you think that Elon Musk is running Twitter to try to make money, or do you think he has a principled adherence to freedom of speech?
I think Elon Musk is really smart. I'm really impressed. I get more impressed every day. He knows money is a symbol of energy, like gas in your gas tank. You don't worship the gas tank, but you worship the sunrises and the forest and the blue skies and the sunsets you see when you're in your car or when you pick your kids up at school. So I worship that mobility. And so to him, he wants it to be successful so he can do SpaceX and all the other amazing things he's doing. And so it's both. It's not exclusive to one. You want to be successful with money so you have the freedom. But definitely, he's hitting on all cylinders now where he said something everybody should agree with.
He was reinstated? Okay, good to know. Thanks, my awesome life.
Everybody knows that the majority of people have agreed now, and I think they're right, the circumcision is wrong.
I have 3 X profiles. I rarely use them. But when I go on there, I still follow various people that are very liberal in their views, and their platforms are perfectly fine, you know. Like, I don't see, so I don't know, just whatever. Like, as long as I can follow the people I want to follow, I don't really give a shit. Otherwise, I haven't had too many problems. I did have one instance on Facebook a few years ago where I reposted, basically it was an anti-Trump meme, and I don't even remember specifically what it was now, but I thought it was dumb that because there were Nazis in the visual, they reported it somehow and got it taken down. But it was clearly like an anti-fascist thing, and I argued it and I lost, and just, you know, chalk it up to whatever. So apparently, you know, if people again find like a meme sufficiently offensive because it has, you know, Nazis on the meme, they can, I don't know how that works, but that was what happened, and you know, so I do have some experience with that. Pixie says, oh, hate to run. Thank you for coming by, Pixie. It's always great to see you.
No, seriously. Let me just say this. Your newborn son. Your newborn son does not have a say whether part of his pecker is going to be cut off, okay? Now, look, I'm circumcised, and I remember my son is 20 years old. And I remember the female doctor came to me and she said, do you really want to do this? And she said, we'll do it, but we don't agree with it. He should make the choice. And just out of tradition, I said, cut the end of his dick off. Now, that was wrong. That was wrong. But the point is, I'm being honest about what I did. In hindsight, callers called me over the years and said, this is wrong. Okay, we know in some of the crazier Islamic countries, they cut the clitoris off little girls. I think we agree that's wrong, right? Does the little girl, okay. But a 5-year-old or 10-year-old kid does not have the ability to make a decision where they want to be.
I mean, you know, you gotta say, at least Alex Jones is right on this point. I mean, he disagrees with child genital mutilation, you know.
Sterilized. It's the same thing. And so Elon Musk came out Friday and said, anybody that sterilizes or cuts the testicles or breast off a girl or boy before they're 17 goes to prison. When you're 17, 18, you want to have that, you want to be something else, it's just like a press job. You want to be somebody else, more power to you, okay? You want to have horns put on your head. But
and he's pro trans rights and bodily autonomy. I mean, so hey, there's more points, I guess, sort of.
But that's when Elon came out on that Friday, and I'm full Elon now, because that is the transhumanist system, is to get us to accept that.
This video is not aged well because Elon is clearly not for these things, right?
Against children.
He's against trans rights.
And once we accept that against children, well,
Have you ever run a background check on yourself? Oh, that's...
I've tried. I have tried to do that. It costs money. I don't have a lot of money.
Like this
we
way.
were not here. We were somewhere down here. You thought I wouldn't finish the video? I gotta finish the video.
Sort of. There are all the reasons, but that's one of the reasons why you are unable to perceive life on other planets, because you're looking for you. And you're not there yet. You're not out there yet. Humans are still, in your reality, confined on Gaia. But we wanted to stress and to point out and to remind you the value of your experience, of the human experience. Do not undermine yourself as less than or as unimportant. You are all of you important. You are all of you. All there is. You are for your experience, for your existence. All there is. All the important that there is. There is not more important than you in your reality. But part of the experience of separation is to believe that you are nothing, that there is nothing else. I guess.
What? He keeps yawning more and more.
Such was your experience. Now you have a different experience, a new way in you the change, so that humanity, the humans, now are starting to discover themselves and to understand, have a little understand. And by little, we mean that there is so much more that you need, that there is, that you will discover. You haven't yet uncovered as much as there is. And you are but started in your discovering what is out there. By out there, we mean out in the universe, out in you. Because you are the universe. Because you are the universe, you are all of that at the same moment. So it's still self-discovery. You are discovering yourself. And you are not only in the human, you are in the universe. You are all over the place. Because you are creation. And as creation, that creation is wide. Wide. Part of it, but you are also creating it. So the scale of your experience is limited to what you have decided to experience in this moment. So in this moment, you decided not to recognize yourself, not to recognize your potential. And when we say potential from the point of view of the you, as the creator, the God that you are, there is no potential because you are all there is. So that you have no limits and you are unconditional and you are knowing yourself fully and completely. So that what the human perceives as potential, the creator is expressing. So it's not a potential because it's a realization, it's a being, it's a something that is happening. And that is part of what you need to evolve in yourself, is that understanding of the unconditional, and that you express your unconditional, understanding of your infinite expression of creation that you are.
You make like a drinking game out of that. Like every time he yawns, just
of the unity. Letting that sink into you, and letting yourself believe, and changing your belief systems of limitation, which are still part of your experience. You're not ready yet to let completely go of those things. So it's like what we were saying with your pain, is that your beliefs are still holding with you, so that you create limitations. And those limitations are part of the human experience, so you are not yet ready to get rid of them. But when we say part of the human experience, they are part of your human experience. Not all humans are experiencing your limitations. Which is also one of the thing that you do, right? It's that you believe that all humans are like you. No, not all humans are like you. Humans are like every other experiences, expressing in many vibrations. Call them dimensions. So that you are having a third dimensional, fourth dimensional experience of separation, of negation of the self, negation of the collective. But there are humans that are having a different experience right now. Which sort of you could say, yes, humans, you could say that's your future, but we will not go there. It's in the future, in time, humans will evolve, for sure. What is your evolution? Which direction you're going? That you will know in the now, because there is no destination, and so there is no one way to express evolution in your reality. You will express it in many ways. So there are many evolutions that are coming from you, and it's a journey, very interesting for you and for us and everyone else that is connected with you, exploring with
it's
you.
just this whole like this separation of like you from us. Who are you? You're acting like you're not part of the human experience.
And that exchange is so.
This is like a mental exercise to take on the perspective of some other, like I don't know. It's weird.
Interesting for all of us.
Meditating again.
So keep with you the understanding of your value and that you are valuable for you, but also for the human experience.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know what happened with my my damn laundry there. I was doing laundry, and sorry, mine lost traction. I was doing laundry, and somehow my thing, it didn't. I had to rewash the load, I guess is what I was saying. So anyway, now I'm kind of stuck. That kind of threw a wrench in my plans for the day.
So the group that I left is trying to say that I'm choosing sides against them and all this stuff, and how they can't believe that I
Back on normal.
chose the wrong side. I did not choose to go against anyone. I chose Jesus because Jesus gave me discernment to realize that he was not speaking anymore, at least not all the time, and in that group. And his sheep know his voice. And now they're saying like all this stuff about me. I don't really care. But what I wanted to share is that the enemy wants division. The enemy wants us to not forgive. Jesus wants us to have his mind and his heart, which is love and forgiveness, not judgment, not accusations, not assumptions, but forgiveness and love and mercy.
All right, I don't know how I got turned on to this.
Jesus,
I get a lot of strange stuff. Hour 26. Just checking that.
was in the wilderness with Satan. Satan tempted him by saying, "Look at all these kingdoms of the world. I could give you all of them." And what did Jesus say to that? I'm saying this because in that group, the Spirit speaking made what they called a declaration of all these kingdoms and rewards and beautiful things that everybody would want for the group only. And now that
the enemy. Know your enemy.
I have
especially if you believe that a lot of people are out to get you.
removed myself, and I've been really feeling Jesus and hearing him strongly again, he has shown me that
my friend's mom used to tell us, she used to say, the enemy's out to kill, steal, and destroy. I think it's somewhere in the Bible. But she would always repeat that. Anytime she'd be like, the enemy is everywhere. They're out there in the world, and that's why you guys stay. Basically like her house was the church or whatever in her mind, so she didn't want any of us to stray too far from the house.
that is the enemy tempting the group. And what did Jesus say to Satan when he offered kingdoms? He said, "Get away from me, Satan." This is off topic, but look at those weird clouds. I've never seen that here in Southern California. Anyways, it is the enemy who wants us divided and wants us to come against each other. The group is saying that that there's two sides and they're gonna, come against each other or fight each other. I want no part in that. I choose Jesus. Jesus calls us to be one with him, one with the Father, one with the Holy Spirit, and one with other believers. I love them. I love the old group, and I'm praying for them. I have felt so much more presence of Jesus and his love since leaving. And I pray that their eyes...
Go where you feel comfortable, like no worries with that one. people often feel very self-conscious, like when they leave their church or whatever, because that's where like a lot of religious people find community, you know. And once you sever yourself from that community, you have to go like make new friends, you know. It's like going to a new school or something. I can relate a lot to that from, you know, my childhood or whatever. So yeah, I mean, it's very like you know, it makes you kind of self-conscious, and it's a stressor for sure. So yeah.
And ears will be open and cleansed soon. Also, Jesus does not threaten and take away rewards when his children aren't doing exactly what he asked them to do, or when they're still learning as they go. He's loving and merciful, and he wants the best for us, and he's with us and loves us no matter what. He doesn't threaten taking away heavenly rewards and stuff like that. He literally died so that we as believers could be set free from being under the curse of law and sin and works.
Well, yeah, I mean, he literally died, but technically he was always alive because he was God, and he was brought back to life, so he was a zombie after that. But either way, you know, he didn't. I mean, he kind of died, but not really. There's like a mock death that occurred.
And suddenly in that group, everything started to become works. And suddenly, somewhere along the line, I realized that
I'm also like interested to know, because you know, Jesus was God. Like, Jesus wasn't actually created, right? Because he always existed, because he was God. He just became a person apart from himself, like to have like a personal experience, I guess.
Whatever spirit
with humanity
was speaking no longer was speaking in unconditional love. Jesus is unconditional love. He doesn't want to leave anybody behind. He doesn't want to harm or punish. He wants to save. He loves you. Don't let anyone tell you different. If you are seeking him daily and you are spending time with him in prayer and you're in the word, in his word, then he is with you. He's with you no matter what. He was with me before I even knew he was with me, okay? He was with me when I was in my deepest, darkest, lowest days, and I felt like giving up. And I had relapsed after 6 years of sobriety.
When Peter walked on water and failed. All right.
And when I hit a rock bottom emotionally and mentally, he started speaking to me. And he never stopped loving me and encouraging me, even when I messed up. His words are true. His words are love.
Jesus screamed at him and called him a fool. Man, you ain't God.
And
that's me,
unity.
bro. You know, like, you know, if she had this personal experience where it was like transformative for her, and you know, it's not hurting anybody else, that's fine. You know, you can believe whatever you want to believe.
With each other believers, love, forgiveness, mercy, kindness, gentleness, self-control, not attacking and removing or threatening to remove heavenly rewards and gifts.
It sounds like she feels attacked by her church. Like, she left this church, and then, I mean, I don't know anything about this, but just judging by what she's saying in this video, that they were like coming at her because she decided she wanted to
they also commented and tried to speak against the beautiful revelation that I was given by the Holy Spirit in my last video, that we are supposed to go through suffering and all this stuff. Yes, the world puts us under suffering. We're born under the curse that started and began.
I saw another comment.
And in the garden, when the enemy became the god of this world. But Jesus, he came in the flesh to be a living, breathing example of the kingdom of heaven.
and how to act as if you're already in the kingdom of heaven on earth, because you already are. You have been seated in heavenly places with Christ Jesus when you came to believe. I shared in my video the other day that when Jesus was on the earth, he did not acknowledge lack or death or even sickness. He called death sleeping and
What do you mean you didn't acknowledge sickness? He healed sickness, right? Like in the story.
told them to wake up. The paralyzed, he didn't say you're paralyzed. He said get up and walk. He acted as heaven is on earth, and that's what he called us to do. When the disciples weren't getting any fish, he said,
Like when he did the miracles, he just commanded them to do it, and they did it, and that's like, okay.
throw the net in by faith, and there was miraculous catch of fish. When they thought there wasn't enough to feed the many people, again, he said, break this bread apart, and everything multiplied.
He also turned tables upside down, threw things outside the tabernacle. People think that Jesus is all peaceful, but he called people out sometimes in anger and humiliation. Correct, yeah.
Because he did not recognize or acknowledge lack or suffering. So why would he want us to suffer? It's finished. On the cross, he bore our suffering, sickness, and sins. So we get to choose to walk in the kingdom mindset with the mind of Christ.
Everybody hear me okay? All right, perfect. Romans chapter 2. Let's continue. Romans chapter 2. We were looking last week at how the Judaizers were infiltrating the church and preaching the law. And I just want to
that with you there that you would need some immaterial thing to kind of
the baby implants in the fallopian tube, right? That's an ectopic pregnancy, right?
Correct.
Yeah. So then, as the baby then grows, it then puts the fallopian tube at risk of rupture.
Yeah.
Right, which would then put the mother's life at risk.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
So
it's like a 99% chance.
Yeah. So as far as going in and like removing the fallopian tube, you know, in order to save the life of the mother, yeah, that unintentionally may result in the death of the child.
Most of the time, like 90% of the time, the baby dies.
Well, yeah, I mean, obviously
when they do that.
Right, but that's not, you're not wanting that.
Yeah.
Right. That's like you're trying to save as many of the lives you can.
Right. Yeah.
And the baby's in a position where there's not a way to save the baby's life.
Yeah.
So you're doing what you can to save the life of the mother, and it unintentionally causes the death of the child.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
that's not.
it's a really good question, and I think that the main issue is when you talk about look, there's a baby in a fallopian tube, and so we have now 2 lives at risk, right?
Yeah.
And so like you're showing a really good heart to show concern for the mother, to say, look, she could die and the baby could die.
Yeah.
So you got to do something to get in the way to preserve life.
It's like 1 life or 2.
Exactly. And so like we would say that your instinct, your desire is right on. You're thinking about the preservation of life.
Right.
So the whole thing over that question is the preservation of life, right? So what's interesting is that, and you probably know this being a college campus, you may have heard these sorts of things, 98% of all abortions statistically, consistently, are at will. I want to kill the baby. It's in the way. I don't want this in my life. Whatever the reason is, it's at will. It's with forethought. I know what I'm doing, and I want to end this pregnancy.
Right. Yeah.
So what tends to happen is there's an emotional argument used to sort of prop up the right to kill your baby, and that is, well, what about rape, incest, life of the mother?
Yeah.
So you're bringing up the life of the mother one, which actually is one of the lowest parts of the 2%, life of the mother. The rape and incest one can be answered very easily. If she's raped, we would say that we shouldn't give capital punishment to the baby. We should give it to the rapist. So what we should be doing is pursuing a justice system that deals with a very heavy hand with the rapist and coming alongside the woman and the baby to preserve their lives and to support them. But we shouldn't be giving capital punishment and executing the baby. I have friends who are the products of rape, and they are lovely and amazing people, and they would argue that they're glad that their life wasn't taken as a result of the crime of their father. So what we would say is is the second point is incest. Very small number of abortions are because of the stated thing of incest. But again, in the case of incest, I also have friends that are the products of incest, and I don't think we should kill them. And it's a terrible thing for sure. But we shouldn't now say, okay, some terrible thing has been done. Let's do something worse and kill the baby. The last thing is the one you brought up, and that's life of the mother. What's amazing about the time that we live in is that the instances where the life of the mother is truly at risk, where something has to be done, where someone comes in to mediate very aggressively, are so infinitesimally small.
1 in 52.
Well, in terms of when, and oftentimes ectopic pregnancies and complications of pregnancies just work themselves out as natural miscarriages and those sorts of things. But you bring a fantastic point. What do you do when it's actually a situation where the life of the mother is truly at risk? And in that case, what we're trying to do is work for the preservation of life, and we're trying to see two patients. We have the baby and the mother. And it's similar to a situation where you say there's a car hanging off of a cliff, right? You've got...
I don't think Jeff Durbin is a doctor, just to be clear, when he says we, I'm not sure.
3 seconds to preserve life. You can only ultimately save one. What do you do in that case? Let them both fall off? No. You preserve the life that you can. So what you're referring to with an ectopic pregnancy complication is a rescue operation. And those rescue operations happen at hospitals with doctors who are working towards the preservation of life, not the willful, unjustified taking of human life. So just to put it in more personal terms, my wife has had a number of miscarriages. One of them almost, thank you.
I actually take the George Carlin position, you know, like if a person hasn't been born yet, right, like they don't have a name, they don't have a social security number, they haven't experienced anything, you know, like to speak of outside of just life in the womb, right, so they don't actually ever have the experience of life, and they're not documented legally as people or like the government or anything like that, right, then they haven't achieved personhood, right? And that would be like, you know, that would hold up until birth. I mean, really. So yeah, I don't know. I don't think I can make any argument that would make sense prior to that. Like there's no, you know, the point of conception is definitely nonsense. It's like, okay, like, and it's something that's not even fully formulated, doesn't have a brain yet, you know, or a spinal cord, and you can't even have sensations. You know, that doesn't, you know, really qualify to me at all. So I think if you're going to pull it that far back, it's like, okay, so you can experience some type of sensation, then maybe, you know, but that's further along in the pregnancy. So
One of them was a molar pregnancy where we had twins, and then there's like basically cancer, and it eats up the babies instantly. And we heard the heartbeats, and then we came back, and then while doing the ultrasound, it was, okay, they both died. And your life is now at risk if we allow this to stay inside you. So she had to go to the hospital to essentially get a procedure that is similar to an abortion on already dead babies to preserve her life. But where did she go? Not to Planned Parenthood.
You have to go to a new place, because that's what I heard is that for like ectopic pregnancies, women couldn't not get it removed until it already bursted their fallopian tube. Like they literally couldn't because of it's banned in Texas, so they weren't able to. They had to wait until they got hurt.
That's a fiction. It's a mischaracterization of the two. Like I'll give you an example. My name's Jeff, by the way. I'm a pastor. This is Bradley. Well, we've been working to get bills of equal protection for all human beings from fertilization. Same as you, the baby in the womb gets the same. And we've been doing that across the country. And in some of the states we've worked in, when we've even gotten it to the floor to be voted on, some of the arguments being used against the bill sounded like that. They said this will make women who have miscarriages criminals. and it's a complete fiction. Something that's a natural occurrence. It's a painful experience having a miscarriage. It's not something someone has to be sought for justice, right? It's a horrible, sad thing. If we're working towards a bill of equal protection for all human beings in a state, yeah, it has nothing to do with miscarriages, natural occurrences that are tragic. It has nothing to do with saving a life if a woman's life is truly in danger, which again, this is a very small number where it actually is something where the doctors have to actually try to preserve life, some life. We're just looking to have equal protection for every human being from fertilization. You know, we've been here so many times in history, and you're familiar with this, so I'm not trying to educate you on this, but just in the last 200 years, you have the instance in Germany where you had a class of people that drew a circle around themselves and said, we will be protected, we will live, but this class of people over here, they're parasites. It looks like a human being, but it's really a Jew. And so we can abuse them, we can put them in concentration camps.
They can feel pain though. Like, some babies, I agree, like, if it gets to the point where they can feel pain, they kind of, like, even though if they don't always understand what's going on, if they can feel pain, I don't want to hurt something.
I don't understand where he's drawing some type of parallels and nods.
Feel pain, but I feel like when it's to the point where it's like right at fertilization, it can't feel any pain yet. It'd be the same thing as like stepping on a clump of dead skin cells at that point. So
can I just...
Yeah. Especially like from the moment of fertilization, even the day after, or, you know, several days after. I mean, like I said, I think if you could determine when the brain and spinal cord are fully developed, that might be the point you would consider them, you know, actually alive.
Respond to that? Just, okay. So, because oftentimes, do you know, even, I would say it's very terrible argumentation from pro-lifers. Pro-lifers will make that argument too. They'll say, well, the baby can feel pain, we have to like not kill it because it can feel pain, which is a contradiction of their own position. They say that it's human from fertilization, so either it's human or it's not. Pain capable is interesting because I don't think that you would...
The question isn't whether it's human, the question is whether it is alive and sentient.
But you wouldn't reason this way if say, a guy, wherever the nearest hospital is here, this place is ginormous. If a guy walked into a hospital locally here and all of the patients that are in comas right now and can't feel pain or respond to pain, if he went in and killed him and said, well, Your Honor, they couldn't feel any pain, so it's not...
People in comas can feel pain. They just can't express it sometimes. A baby at that level can't physically feel pain. Like, there's no mechanism to allow it to feel pain.
Well, so if we say that what makes you human is your ability to sense pain, feel pain, reason, have a working heartbeat...
The kid's actually making a pretty good argument there that Jeff's just steamrolling over, that there's no mechanism which allows it to feel pain, and their nervous system isn't fully online yet. Right? They're not actually experiencing anything from the perspective of us conscious folk. You know, they may be experiencing something, but it's not going to, right? It doesn't affect the long-term outcomes, right? That baby, even after birth, right? Like you have a potentiality, right? And the potentiality is survival, replication, and contributing things to the society, right? And so for all of that potential, which probably mostly gets squandered by most of us, that's how we maintain ourselves as a species and societies. So it's like, okay, so when you're talking in terms of like a child, and it's the replacement value for the person who's having the child, right? In like economic terms, and then you're thinking like, what would this child contribute to society? What am I taking away from a future generation? Is it going to reproduce? Is it going to be successful? Is it going to be economically productive, right? And is it going to have a good quality of life, and such that it's a happy one, right? And you start asking all of those questions, and then you can like tick down the box. Okay, so it's not just the potential that this life could be good, but is it the potential that this life probably would be good? More likely than not.
then what people can do then is start drawing circles around their class and say, well, we can kill these because it is a reason as well.
You can kill like disabled people, for example.
You see it. You got it. You got it. So it's a question of, like, for example, like one of the great things we have now.
I missed a comment. I only see it on YouTube. Modern medicine is saving far more babies than nature intends, allowing abortion alleviates the mass number of embryos. I can't see the last part of that comment. I'm sorry. Hold on. This. The mass numbers of embryos and zygotes and slows down the amounts of infants being born. Yeah, exactly. Because we don't actually, need to reproduce. That's like a luxury. My awesome life. Reproducing more than replacement value.
It's the same
in biological terms.
Argument for veganism. Funny enough, I heard a similar argument for veganism.
Yeah. Well, think about this. Like,
feel pain and stuff.
Exactly. So we live in a time where, because Christians and Christian abolitionists work to abolish the slave trade, worked so hard for that. Obviously, a terrible war was fought and bloodshed, but it was because the Christian abolitionists worked so hard in the culture to say, hey, this is against God's word. He commands the death penalty for kidnapping and enslaving somebody. This is an evil thing. That black man is my brother. That black woman is my sister in humanity. We live in a time now where we all look back on that and say, what a wicked abomination, it's such an evil thing. And what we see about that is you can't say to that black man or black woman that you're less human than me.
Right, yeah.
He's a human being, I'm a human being. We look different, we have differences in our biological makeup in terms of more melanin, less melanin, those sorts of things, but we're fundamentally human, we're the same. So the argument against the slave trade is that's my brother, he's a human being. And what slave owners were saying is, well, yeah, I mean, technically it's the image of God, technically it's a human being, but it's closer to the level of the beast. That's what they were saying. So what we're saying is that from all biological science and, of course, the biblical worldview, from the moment of fertilization, what you have is fully human. Like you probably, what are you studying here?
Electrical.
Okay, so you've had to take some biology courses at some point.
Not really.
No science? Okay.
Well, like physics and math, but not really.
Well, all biological science today testifies irrefutably that from the very moment of fertilization, you and I are the human beings that we are now. We were then. I mean, the whole DNA code, everything about you is mapped out at the very instant of fertilization. The only difference from that point to today is a difference of degree, like size.
I agree with you about like the definition of what it's a human right for fertilization. That makes sense to me. I just think the only thing that's different in my mind is how moral it is to kill it at different stages as it grows. I feel like, because I'm not Christian, I grew up Christian, but I'm not Christian anymore. But so I feel like killing a human, I feel like it's bad in all cases. But I feel like it's like varying levels of bad. Again, still like depending on how formed it is and how long it is, especially those who are like all involved, like the rape cases you were saying. Like, I agree that the baby shouldn't be like punished for the sins of the father.
Right.
But there's.
I would even take a stronger stance in that direction of in what cases it might be actually preferable, right? Like, not to say good or bad, but to say what's the most preferable outcome. In some cases, to terminate a pregnancy, to terminate a life before it actually begins in the best interest of the woman and the child, right? So that is a preferable long-term outcome based on the situation, right? And therefore it would be good, it would be morally good if the long-term effect is the preferable one. And, I would say in this case, no person is really harmed, right? Because the child doesn't have the experience of harm yet. So there's no person to be harmed. So they're not having a conscious experience yet. At that point, you're preventing possible harm in the future, and it's a preferable outcome.
some points where it's like a 13-year-old girl unconsensually gets raped. So now she has to have a baby she didn't want or ask for.
It's an awful thing.
So it kind of hurts her. And the baby could be early on enough that if you killed it, it would be immoral to kill a human, but it wouldn't feel any pain. And it doesn't have a brain yet, doesn't have any memory. So it wouldn't even know that it was being killed or that it was going to become something or anything.
Yeah, you seem to have a very caring heart. And so I'll point this out to you. You're worried about the 13-year-old girl who was a victim of rape.
Right. Like, I think it's bad to kill an infant at all. Like, I agree with that. Especially, it's bad to kill humans. I just feel like there comes a point to where, like, it's more logical to kill in specific cases where it can't feel much pain versus the other person that can feel a lot of pain and has to live and understand, know all of that for the rest of their life.
Two things I'll say to you. And again, you seem to have a very caring heart, so I think you'll probably be able to embrace this easily. The first thing is the girl who's 13 who was raped. That resonates with me very deeply because that's very close to me in my life. I know someone I love very dearly where that happened to.
This is just like interesting that like Jeff, I mean, maybe he does. He knows all of these people. He knows the person who was raped. The person who was victim of incest, birth of rape, birth of incest, experienced rape, etc. Right? Maybe, but like in all these cases, all of these people he knows also just happen to be Christians. They also just happen to, so I don't know. I cast doubt on these assertions, and like he can claim he knows all these people, right, which doesn't contribute in any way to his argument, right? Like in a legalistic sense, it's not, that would be like a hearsay type of argument, get in legal standards. So
it means a lot to me to hear that. But she's a victim. What we shouldn't say is that we have one victim, now let's create two. What we should say is this is a fallen world, there's evil that happens in this world, we need to support the victim and go after the perpetrator, but not create a second victim. In your scenario, we would create now not just one scenario of victim.
It's so you have the victim, right, and the perpetrator, the baby, that second victim you're claiming, right, like that's a byproduct. It's a byproduct of the act of the first victimization. And so psychologically, that might be detrimental to a woman, right? So, and which might cause further harm to the child, which is not actually the fault of the woman. It would be the fault of the perpetrator, right? And even if you executed them, you still would not be able to take back that psychological issue that the woman now experiences as a result of being assaulted, right? And has to carry this baby and have the responsibility of having a child that she didn't ask for, right? So what you're saying doesn't make sense, right? You're still creating victims either way, even if you executed the perpetrator. So, I mean, if you're going to execute rapists, I mean, I guess that's one argument, right? But whether the woman can choose to have an abortion, depending on her feelings on the situation, I mean, it's just like that's completely bananas to think that she should have to carry a child and raise a child or whatever, adopt a child, which could be equally traumatic. Either way, if it's traumatic for her in any way, why would you want her to have the child? Doesn't make any sense, right? It's like, well, because that kid could be special. John, I don't know who, yes, right, yes, gobbledygook.
But now a second that actually ends in death. So that would be it. But one more point on that, just hang on to your point. I don't want you to forget it.
I forget my point.
Sorry, I'm going to forget mine too. So the next thing is the argumentation of well, if we allow this life to grow and to actually be birthed, it's going to create complications and difficulties for other life. And those complications are going to be so disastrous that it'd be better to end this life to protect these lives. Same argument used in Germany and in every other instance in history, whether it's Stalin, Mao, Pol Pot, because you know what their arguments were?
But if you're ending that life and in effect you protect that person, right, before their life's even begun, you're like, okay, this kid's probably going to grow up to have a shit life, so, cut it off. before it even starts, right? Like, I don't know, it's a different type of logic.
One was like senseless killing.
Well, there are arguments. Think about this. There are arguments of all those regimes of the last 100 years, atheist regimes, communist regimes. There are arguments where these human beings are going to cause the rest of us to suffer. These human beings are going to complicate our lives, and so their justification was that very justification. We can kill them because them being around complicates the rest of our lives and will make our lives a disaster.
Well,
same argument.
At that point, they can feel pain. They can't. Like that's a whole different class. I feel like.
Well, what if we put him to sleep? What if we put him to sleep and then kill him? No, other human beings. If we decide that we'll take a class of people and draw a circle around them and say that they're not worthy to live, but we'll show mercy and we'll put them all to sleep so they can feel nothing and then kill them.
It's not okay.
I know you see it. I know you see it.
I get where you're pointing it. It's just like the thing I don't agree. Like we shouldn't. Like I feel bad for the baby too. Like I'm not trying to disregard that.
Watch this. Why? I'm gonna probe on that for a second. Why? Because you said it was bad.
Yeah, I think.
But why is it bad?
Bad to kill anything that can feel pain and it will have a future. And
Why?
that's what you're getting at. Like that it'll have a future. That it would. That those people, even if you put them to sleep, would wake back up again and they'd have a future again and like want to be alive and do things. But if you kill that, you're ending it. Which would be the same for a baby. Like you kill it and you end its future that it could have. But I feel like it gets to a point where it's like she'd be 13 giving birth, it'd mess up her body a lot. Some 12, 13-year-olds can't.
You also got to remember the same people you're arguing against would argue against like people being euthanized by a doctor because they're so utterly depressed and they're whatever, that they have some terminal illness or something, and they and you don't want them to end their own lives because they're hopelessly miserable, right? But if they're being born and you have the choice to do it, you're like, no, don't do that. So like, and I guess that's kind of consistent, it's just not consistent in the fact that it's like, okay, it's not about this potential, all the goodness that might come out of their lives, because you're not thinking about any of the drawbacks of the situation. It's all good to you because you don't actually have to deal with it yourself, right? So you just tell other people what they ought to do when it doesn't actually affect you. And then, like, that's the kind of vibe I get.
Really give birth to a whole baby, and then she'd have to raise a baby.
She can give a baby for adoption. I've adopted 3 children.
Okay, yeah.
She can give it for adoption.
But it could hurt her if it doesn't.
Right, but what we don't want to do is say, sweetie, you're a victim. So now let's, in this whole horrible situation, let's create another victim. And what we want to do in a situation like that is say, look, this is a terrible, fallen, evil world. Evil things happen. Evil men do evil things. But what we don't want to do is take a situation where there was a crime and a tremendous evil and now create more evil out of that. What we ought to do is say, okay, you're a victim. Let's protect the victim. Let's love the victim. Let's come around the victim. Let's support the victim. Let's go after the perpetrator. And let's not execute the child and create a second victim. Right? And one more thing I want to point out to you. You mentioned that you were raised in a Christian home, but you're no longer a professing Christian, right? Okay. So what I want to point out to you is you seem like a very gentle soul, and like you haven't been able to shake your Christianity loose.
I think that
you're saying like it's bad to kill humans.
I think some of my morals were probably shared from them from growing up where my parents were Christian and taught me things.
Yeah.
I just think some. So like I've read the Bible, the whole Bible. Like I was in the VBS stuff and all that.
Yeah.
And I feel like like Jesus' teachings were good. Like I probably would be friends with him if he was alive now. It takes like scientific evidence and things like that for me to believe in things very like kind of black and white. Like my dad, like I would always argue back and forth with him because I'd always be like, "Well, what proof do you have?" And then he'd be like, "Oh, well, when you're a father, you'll understand."
It's interesting because the way the video started and just being this far into it, like obviously they're on a campus or whatever, and so when the video first starts, the kid's already engaged in a conversation in blue shirt dude over there. And Jeff kind of ambushed him and kind of takes it up from there. And so I wonder, I mean, I don't know enough about this guy to know if this is like MO of how he kind of engages in conversation, but he's definitely kind of trying to engage this kid in such a way that's almost like big brotherly. Like he's like, no, let me, and so he's not really taking any of his points seriously. And you see this a lot in like the online debates. He's like ready with a deflection argument. There's no response to any of the things that the younger guy is saying here. Right? He's not responding to any of his arguments directly. He's instead trying to obfuscate and direct away from the argument.
It's like that's appeal to an emotion. Like, what proof do you have?
Very good.
And none of them could ever give me any.
Why do Connects talk funny? I don't know. Oh. Can't do that.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Like a measured proof.
Well, let's try that for a second, okay?
I feel like the Bible's not good proof either because there's a lot of discrepancies in the Bible.
Hey, James Apperson, good to see you.
Like the whole book of Exodus isn't historical. None of it happened.
Really?
Yeah, there's not enough historical evidence. Like during the 40 years of wandering, when they were in that spot, you would expect skeletons of things like from when they had camels, donkeys. You'd expect pots, people that had died in that time. Nothing. In that entire like desert area, there's nothing. There's no record of the Egyptians ever enslaving the Israelites during that period either.
You don't know about the most recent evidence that's shown evidence for the Jews in the land during the time of that particular dynasty under that particular pharaoh. Do you know that we have plenty of evidence of the Jews in that area, in that particular dynasty, the exact one?
John Lovell says, Christians should have the right to be happy. The thing that I do not want them to make me participate in their happiness. Okay, yeah, I mean, the thing is, yeah, it's you know, like the argument for rights, like my rights begin where your rights end or something like that. I think maybe even James was saying something like that in his stream earlier. It's like, you know, anytime that you say that I can't do something, right, because you believe X, right, then you are it's beholden, you know, to prove to me that X is a sufficient, that I should believe in X, right? Because I don't necessarily have to believe in X. And if what I'm doing isn't hurting anybody else, right, that's my freedom. So, and in this argument, right, like if the thing is an extension of you, let's say like the baby in this case, right, this is an extension of yourself. It's a responsibility that you are either choosing to take on or not to take on, right? And it's a lifelong responsibility of being a parent. So if I'm telling you that you have to choose, you know, because of this reason, and it's going to affect you for, you know, the rest of your life, you're going to take that very seriously, right? And so you're going to say, I need a very serious reason to believe that I ought to make this decision and, you know, and not that decision. So, like, yeah, it's all a matter of how important this thing is. And when you're talking about bringing human life into the world, to most people, it's pretty consequential. Hopefully, right? If they have a good moral compass, it is of major consequence the choice to bring another person into the world.
So yeah, if you send me your email, I'll give you tons of it.
Sean says, I do like the Easter Bunny. Does that make me a bad person? And Christians have faith, and sometimes they switch to reason just for fun. Yeah. Yeah, they don't need to argue with us. They want to argue with us.
Information on that, but I want to say something. Your instinct to say, I want proof, it better be true, is actually a Christian belief. And I'm sorry that you didn't get that from your dad. I'm sure he's well-intentioned and he loved you, he loved Jesus, but that's not how Christians should reason. You shouldn't just base your faith upon blind, stupid faith. You have to believe things because they're true, and that comports to the Christian worldview. So I'm going to point something out to you.
But isn't there faith? Like,
oh, for sure.
You believe? So the definition of faith is like belief with a lack of direct evidence sometimes.
That's not a biblical definition.
Okay, what's the biblical definition?
Well, the word for faith is trust in. Now, I would say you have faith too, right now, even as maybe an atheist or agnostic.
I would say I'm an atheist, but I'm open-minded to learning something of truth. I'm not going to be closed-minded.
But you do have faith, right? But I would argue as an atheist that your faith is actually the opposite of what you say you want. Your faith is actually a blind faith. Can I give you 1 point to show that?
Okay.
Okay, just think about this. So, we've been standing here for the last 20 minutes or so, maybe. I hope I'm not making you too late. We've been standing here for the last 20 minutes. Have you at any point in the last 20 minutes been fearful, or has it crossed your mind that at some point you might just float away.
No, because Newton did a very rigorous mathematical proof of the law of gravitation. Einstein did his Einstein field equations to show the curvature of space-time creates gravity.
Very good.
And we can measure this force repeatedly with experiments, with numbers and everything.
We can examine the universe that we're in and see the laws. We can see the laws that are in place. No, I'm going to press a little further to show your faith.
I've never experienced it.
I've
never had a spiritual experience ever in my life.
Yeah.
I've had people say that. My mom claims to have spiritual experiences. No proof though. And
well, let's get to that. My point was, and I'm going to let you challenge it. Okay. Yeah. I would argue that you can't have science apart from the biblical worldview. Science is impossible in your worldview. And here's how I'm going to point to it.
And it's dismissive to say that, oh no, not all that, science stuff. John Lovell says, I once saw a Catholic woman praying beside her car in a mall parking lot. When I asked her if she was praying to the Lord, she said no. She was praying to St. Anthony to help her find her car key. Yeah, we need those lesser saints in our lives. James Apperson says, religious definition of faith is not trust. I don't base my trust in gravity on someone doing math. Yeah. No, I can observe gravity. I use it every day, whether I want to or not, right? Gravity is not an option, right? It's not like, oh yeah, if we could just, I guess if I get involved in the space program or something, maybe I can, get involved in those anti-gravity experiments and. But apart from that, how are you going to refute gravity?
Because all of science is based upon induction or the uniformity in nature. Now, this is not something that you have to have a Christian tell you. You can do Bertrand Russell, one of the most famous atheists in history. David Hume, Scottish skeptic. We're not talking about Christians here. You can look at a number of modern physicists, atheists.
I have to point out, it always it drills me when he says Bertrand Russell. For some reason, just the way he says it, it bothers me.
Agnostics referring to the problem of the uniformity in nature, and that is that in all of our past experience, nature was uniform. In order to test things scientifically, you have to know that nature is uniform. Those laws you refer to have to be real, they have to be in place, and we have to be able to depend upon them in the future. So here's my question to you as an atheist. If God...
My question to you as an atheist, from a Christian, by the way. John Lovell says, I can talk like a Baptist because of my intellectual empathy. I got a lot of shit that I paste. My Awesome Life says, oh, holy gravity. Oh no, it disappeared on me. I believe in you. Okay. And John Lovell says, the Christians get emotional the closer we get to Easter. I bought a lottery ticket from this guy, and he started talking about Romans gambling for Jesus' dirty underwear. Jeez. That's... Wait, he just cited atheist scientists to support his claim that we shouldn't consider the input of atheists. Yeah, that is what he's tried to cite Bertrand Russell a few times now in the videos I've seen of him. And so it's interesting. He's kind of taking Mr. Russell's statements out of context here to try and provide for his argument, which is funny. It's just, it's interesting. Yeah, dirty underwear. You got the genetic material on there. You compare it to the stains on the shroud, and they'll get the Shroud of Turin,
is not there, and this universe is the random result of evolutionary processes. If you and I, our ancestors were bacteria, and we got here through blind, purposeless forces, so you have to ask this question. I'm a scientific man, I want proof, I want to believe it's true, I have to be able to see it, touch it, test it.
Is this a fine-tuning argument?
No. It actually goes, it's deeper than that. Because you can't even talk about fine-tuning without
much deeper than that. Yeah.
The uniformity of nature. So what I'm saying is
by the uniformity of nature?
That the future will be like the past.
The uniformity of nature would be caused by fine-tuning, wouldn't it?
The future.
Yuck. Jesus sold his dirty panties on his OnlyFans. Yes, James Apperson. comment of the day right there.
Yeah, for example, what I meant was, I try to use a very rudimentary example. We've been standing here, and we've assumed the whole time that gravity's going to hold us down like it did in the past. True. Okay, but we have to be able to justify that claim. Okay, if this universe is random, unguided, no purpose, there is no God governing it, how do you justify an appeal to the uniformity in nature? Because you don't know that the next 5 seconds will be like the past. You don't know that. Time and chance acting on matter doesn't create uniformity.
Yeah, so he made this argument in a previous video, which isn't what Bertrand Russell is saying there. He's not saying, he's just saying because you can't guarantee that the future will be like the past, right? There's no predictive value in that, right? But it's not to say that everything we have observed hasn't occurred uniformly with the pattern, right? We observe the pattern, but we have no guarantee that the pattern will continue, which is actually a proof against God, because if God were true, the pattern would continue, right, and proceed in such a way that there is a predictable conclusion, right? You have a predictable way that this scenario ends based on the Bible. Right, and what they're saying is there is not a predictable conclusion, right? Because we don't have a reliable chain of evidence to support that, basically that this revelation type of, text is going to come true, like anything from the Bible or the Quran or whatever, right? Like there's no corroboration beyond people relating to the experience of the Messiah. That's all it is. These people that they've experienced the Messiah doesn't actually legitimize the claims that are made, the future predictions that are made in the text.
God invoke uniformity versus just natural laws and quantum fields interacting with each other.
Okay, so again,
why would there need to be a mystical being looking at?
I'm not talking about a mystical being. I'm talking about a God who is known, who's actually condescended and walked among us and revealed himself to us. Okay. So what I'm saying is that in order for you to do the science that you should do, let me give you this encouragement. Oxford, Cambridge, Yale, Harvard, all of those institutions for the last couple hundred years, what were they? Christian institutions.
Yeah, I want to hear what you're saying.
Yeah, so I'm saying the science that we've had, the big explosion in modern science we've had, without question, came from it grew out of a Christian worldview. Why? Because Christians believe in a God who governs the universe, and the universe is law-like. It's coherent. We can study it, we can see the mechanisms, and we can depend upon the future being.
It's kind of an interesting fact of history, because Christianity did they spread literacy so that they could spread the Bible, and inadvertently spreaded other systems of learning, right? Other systems of knowledge that were enhanced by better literacy, right? So then it just engaged people more in the act of learning and spreading knowledge in this way. So I think it's kind of like an inadvertent consequence that what they get out of that is people being skeptical of the very teachings they use to make people understand the teachings themselves, if that makes any type of sense, right?
Like the past. What I'm saying is that you have to live by blind faith. About when you walk away from this conversation and you're walking to your next class or to go to get something to eat, every step is a step of blind faith, because you don't know that the laws of the universe are going to be the same 5 seconds from now as they were in the past. Here's my point. As an atheist, you have no justification for the principle of induction, that the future will be like the past. You have to live by faith.
Okay, so basically you're saying that because God is real, we know that the cosmological constants will not change in 5 seconds.
Because we have God and his Revelation. We know who he is. God has told us about himself and how he governs the universe. So I have faith in this God who sustains all things and carries everything to its intended destination. I believe in a universe that is law-like and can be clocked and depended upon because I have a God who actually governs the universe.
The laws of the universe. Like whenever he does a miracle, he's like temporarily changing laws.
Miracles aren't problems for me, they're problems for you.
What does that mean?
What I mean is, in a Christian worldview where you have a law-like universe with a God who governs it and a uniform creation, when God does something peculiar and now all of a sudden, wait, that's not supposed to be that way. This universe is law-like. It's not supposed to happen like this. Miracles are weird things for me. But for you, you live in a time universe where time and chance acting on matter. It's all chaos. There's no laws in this universe that can be depended upon. So miracles aren't strange in your worldview.
Laws that are really just pattern recognition of measuring stuff over and over again that obeys a formula.
So you think it's just patterns and it's not a law?
It's just patterns that somehow emerge to us. But
so you think about it. Wait, you're in a good point. Absolutely, you're in a good point though.
I'm going to forget.
Okay, sorry.
You're basically saying that the reasons we know that the cosmological constants, thus like the deducted laws of our universe, will stay uniform because God created this universe, so it's uniform under him.
We have a meaningful justification to appeal to laws in the universe at all.
Can I say something?
Sure, yeah.
So, but the difference between what you're saying is chaos is in how things evolved, is not chaos according to the laws of physics. It's all explainable within the laws of physics, just chaotic processes within these laws, versus you're trying to say like a different type of chaos that I'm saying.
No, I'm saying that there is, all you have is chaos. All you have is
chaos within the laws of physics.
Well, you're referring into laws as though they're real things.
It's like a molecules in a can. If you shake them up, knowing the position of one of those molecules is probabilistic. It's chaotic. We wouldn't know, but they all obey the same physical laws.
Physical laws.
Fully know.
Right. How do you know those physical laws will be the same 5 seconds from now? You don't have a God who governs the universe. You have a universe that came from nothing. You have time and chance acting on matter. You don't know that things aren't going to switch. Also, where is the law of, say, 2? The number 2. Where is that? Have you ever seen it?
Real analysis. Someone did a proof on like what actual numbers are according to the number axis.
So if I took a piece of paper right now and I wrote 2 + 2 = 4. Okay. Is that an expression of a law in the universe?
I guess so.
Okay. So where does that law exist?
Sorry.
It's okay. I know. Where does that law exist? Is it on the paper I wrote it on?
Well, what are you asking for? Like, what do you mean by like?
You're referring to laws that exist in the universe. Okay. I'm saying that's a Christian thing.
How is that?
Because in your worldview as an atheist, you don't have a God who governs the universe, who makes the universe intelligible, who sustains it.
You're saying like, what's creating these laws since these laws are here?
I want to tell you a story.
I used to believe that Jesus was a Catholic God of the Gentiles.
I imagined that Jesus was Italian. The New Testament was one of those books that I saw nuns reading on the subway. I was expecting to find a handbook on how to persecute the Jews. I'm reading a story written by Jews about Jewish people. One thing you don't do is you don't talk about Jesus.
I'm gonna get ostracized. They're gonna think I'm crazy. And
are you out of your mind? You're not Jewish anymore.
Absolutely not. Do not look into this.
You are a traitor to your people.
Jesus was.
These laws, since these laws are here.
I'm saying.
Holy shit. Not Jewish anymore? Okay. Sorry about that. This stream brought to you by my laundry being soaked and me having to rewash.
And the laws you recognize that are there, and the mechanisms you recognize are there, we can observe them, we can use them, and in my worldview, they are a fixture. They're a part of creation, and they can be trusted.
I agree.
In your worldview, they are not a fixture. They are not something that's sustainable. It's just something that might just be observed. And when I brought the arithmetic,
Awesome Life says, we as humans have a scientific understanding of the universe which has evolved over the centuries to our modern understandings and laws which are scientific truths. Good description, yeah. John says Christians just want to have fun. Christians have a Jesus which makes them feel good, yeah. Drinking the Jesus juice. It's just like a drug, man.
The math problem. If I wrote 2 + 2 = 4 on a piece of paper, and I say, is this true? Someone says, yes. I say, is this a law in nature? Yes. And then I tear it up and throw it away. Have I destroyed the...
I think I missed a few comments here. The skid marks of Jesus. John Level, I just realized again that a lot of Christians don't use evidence for their belief. LOL, what is wrong with me not to see it? Oh, yeah. My Awesome Life says Catholicism actually denounced educating people to keep the church in control via the Dark Ages. Yeah, those were dark times. John Lovell says Christians do not care about correct when they have magic. Christians know what they like, and they like it. Christians like magic stuff. My Awesome Life says the laws of physics are real. Jesus. And John says when a child is told that Jesus is a real zombie, the child believes it. Yes. Never forget that your Savior was brought back from the dead, which does, by definition, make him a zombie. And then he wants you to eat him as well, metaphorically or whatever. Like, yeah, this is my body, this is my blood. If you're a Catholic, enjoy that one. You are a zombie worshipping cannibal, my friend.
Law of 2 + 2 = 4?
No, it's still there.
Where does it exist?
Through pattern recognition of the universe.
Is it just human minds that recognized it?
That's a good question, but that's like a whole philosophical question that not even Christians really or anyone can answer.
Oh, we're answering it now.
Yeah, but like,
we're answering it now. So I'll give you an example of how this works out. So Christian worldview says the law of 2 + 2 = 4 is a real law. It reflects the thinking of God. It's coherent. It's part of creation.
In 7 days, dude. Like the Bible says a lot of shit that's not true, right?
Well, the earth is created in 6 days, is what Scripture teaches. But let's not forget that you believe if you were
on the seventh day, God took a nap. God just fucked right off, man.
Jesus, you believe that the universe.
So, that proves, like right there in Genesis, that God sometimes just doesn't do anything, right? Therefore, deism. Like if God just decides to go sleep on the job, God can go sleep on the job and think, right? Like that's what it says.
Came from nothing.
Right, but I think that
inorganic became organic.
Yeah, I think that
how do you get to that magical configuration? You were just mentioning miracles.
Quantum fluctuations have been proven to create something from nothing.
You mentioned miracles. You mentioned miracles. Here you go. You mentioned miracles.
Yeah.
But you believe in miracles too.
If it's raining, I might need to leave. Sorry, man.
That's okay. You believe in miracles too.
Sorry. I don't like pictures.
That's okay. You believe in miracles though. You believe that inorganic.
Rain is a miracle. He was praying for rain.
Matter became organic. You believe that fish became philosophers.
Well,
you believe that something came from nothing.
Organic, according to laws. Well, it has a low probability. I'll give you that. If you extrapolate it over
in what instance? Where can you? You said you believe things based upon evidence.
Right.
In what? Where's your evidence? Because you say you believe it. So where's your evidence that inorganic matter becomes organic?
There's a 60s. In the 60s, I think scientists did things where they were shooting electric charges in like a thermovolt, and by adding certain chemicals, they were able to create like.
So what do they have to do? What do they have to do?
Like that.
I don't. Where did they say that inorganic matter became organic? Who said that?
Okay, I'm gonna be honest. I agree that there's no direct proof where like I could point here and say, oh yeah, this is where
you believe it by faith, right?
Became organic. No, I believe it by logical probability.
Faith.
I'm basically saying which one has a higher probability, that these natural scientific laws created something, even if it's a low probability, or a mystical being that I have no proof for.
I don't believe in a mystical being.
Okay, like I'm not trying to disrespect.
No, I don't take it as disrespect. I'm trying to help you see. It's not a mystical being.
He is the.
It's not.
So they are going down the rabbit hole. So now gone beyond the realm of abortion. Jesus really wants to eat your brain, John Lovell, yes. My Awesome Life says, I am thoroughly enjoying this. Please, God, please don't smite me. Yeah. Don't worry, I think he'll be indifferent. Flash lightning on crack. Fast talking, flim flam man. Yeah, let me introduce a lot of points and not address any of yours. And this is what they do, right? This is what they specialize in. They're like, hold on, what about this? What about that? Never mind the fact that you are introducing the theory of the infinite, omnipotent Sky Daddy, right? What about this? And Darth Dawkins said like essentially the same thing to me. It's like it's not about actually pushing a view on you, right? So much as it is about breaking down whatever your present view is. And so it doesn't matter if they can actually convert you, right? What they want to do is deconstruct your belief in science and reason. And if they can do that, they can make you do anything. You know, once they deconstruct your core belief, they can run any grift on you, and it doesn't matter because you lose your critical reasoning faculty, and that is their goal. To make you like a child that will believe anything.
Mystical being. It's not an unknown being. It's a God who's revealed himself and spoken to us. Well, you've heard his message, but you reject it. And I would say that your rejection of the message of Jesus is not based upon evidence.
No, I don't reject Jesus.
James Apperson, quote, "It is not a mystical being," unquote, as he prepares to argue for a mystical being. Yeah. Not an hypothesis. Indeed.
Message. I think a lot of the things he says about like empathy, morality, how to treat people is really good.
Well, his message also was that if you don't come in repentance and faith to him, that you're going to die in your sins.
I know, that's the only thing I'm like, well, shit, man.
I know.
Kind of twisting an arm behind my back.
No, and I'm not trying to hurt you by saying that to you, but I'm saying that Jesus says you're either with me or you're against me. You can't take him at love your neighbor as you love yourself, and then not listen to him when he says that he's God in the flesh and he came to save his people from their sins. So either he's a liar, dude. He is either a liar and a fraud, or he is who he claimed to be.
Or he didn't exist. Option C.
He doesn't let us put him in a different place.
Here's the thing.
What if even more hypotheticals you come up with? But I just came up with a third one, just off the top of my head.
I told you right now, I'm God.
I would want you to prove it. Like,
or
I feel like,
what if I told you, you know what?
I tell you to create a whole universe and to show me all of. I tell you to show me how quantum gravity works, and I tell you to
Let's be honest. If I told you I was God, you would think I'm a nutter. Yeah. Rightly so. I would think. And if I told you that I'm forgiving your sins, you'd be like, "What makes you think you have the power to do that?" I'm like, "Because I'm God. I can forgive you of your sins." You would think I'm crazy. Jesus said those things. That he was God and that he came to forgive sins.
Right. Yeah.
Right. And so we can't take him and say, "I'm going to put you on the shelf and say you're just a good moral teacher," because he said that he came to save his people from their sins. And so he's either nuts, or he's the greatest con man in history, or he is.
Sin is just immorality according to the Bible, right? I mean,
so he claimed to be.
Okay, but like Muhammad said things like that. Well, Buddha didn't fully say things like that.
Muhammad never said that he was God. Muhammad.
Fly in the coop, but I need some more. Your antics make me bored, cause I just came around.
Buddha didn't fully say things like that.
Muhammad never said that he was God. Muhammad, and this is interesting. So Jesus comes, it's prophesied, every detail about his life and ministry is prophesied hundreds of years before he comes, down to how he's going to die, where it's going to take place, when it's going to take place, hundreds of years. And I can demonstrate that to you. But then Jesus comes, dies, rises again, as was prophesied.
Right.
Hundreds of years later, someone named Muhammad comes along.
Right.
He heard stories from Christian tribes around him. He created this new revelation, the Quran, and he got information wrong. He heard things wrong. He changed the message of Jesus, and he said that he is the final prophet of Allah. And so what did he do, though? All he did was distort the Christian message, changed who Jesus says he was, and he comes hundreds of years later. So
Jesus is either nuts, or this is where I interrupt and say, yeah, that, clear, that. Yeah. James Apperson says clearly. Oh, yeah. Okay, sorry. I misread that. Jesus is obviously nuts. Must be. Either that, or the people that wrote the frickin' thing, right, lied. I mean, just brainstorming here, but maybe the people that wrote the frickin' book just made some shit up, and it only, again, like, they have to turn off your reasoning so that you are enveloped in the emotional grip of this story, right? This story is what really kind of keeps you in the fold. Because if you don't believe the story, then the whole thing just falls apart. Link. Unfortunately, I'm on Prism, James, so I cannot have guests on Prism. Otherwise, I would absolutely link you in. Yeah, I don't have a computer today, so I have to do this from my phone. But yeah, do your laundry and what you got to do. I'm actually finishing my laundry, which is why decided now would be a good time to come on. My Awesome Life says, but that doesn't completely erase the humanity of it all. No, there's a lot of humanity in the story of Jesus, and the thing is, so it's not unreasonable to think that somebody like Jesus might have existed, that might have just been mythologized, right? A lot of people were crucified for heresies and stuff like that, so it's not completely out of the realm of possibility to believe that, and that there might have been a teacher who influenced all these people and made them write these books, right? It's just that the facts are all kind of blurry and obscure, and we can't figure out who wrote what and when, and the canonization of the church and all these councils and what these the interest of these various actors were who were involved in compiling this book and then publicizing it, right? Because it just kind of happens to coincide with the growth of certain civilizations who then went on to colonize a lot of the world and try to forcefully integrate their practices in the way that people think and act, right? So they can downplay, oh well, the Crusades happened and this and that, but it's like it influenced the way that cultures around the world came to be the way they are, right? And it is that influence exerted by force, right, that is part of the reason that people still adhere to these beliefs. So it's not by logic and reason, it was by force and terror that these ideas were adopted. And that's the ethical issue here, and how we inform our decision making. Do we want people to believe that they should be good because they will be punished in the afterlife, or do we want people to believe that they should be good because they will cause more good outcomes in this life for themselves and other people?
It's okay. So I'm saying it's so easy to it's not your fault. It's so easy to reject his message because you just have the original to go back to, and you go, yeah, you come hundreds of years later, you didn't even get parts of Jesus' life right. You obviously misheard something. You changed the story of Jesus. He said he wasn't the Son of God. He didn't die on a cross. He didn't rise from the dead. And you came like hundreds of years later. It's easy to see the nature of his revelation. It's completely fraudulent.
I'll be honest, I'm still a little stuck on like the proof side of it.
Sure, yeah.
Like, it's just very difficult for me to believe in something without proof. Even if what the morals of what they said are correct, I just can't buy everything they've said.
No, you shouldn't.
I feel like
that's how Christians
say some
think.
things that are true and then lie about other things, or think something but they're wrong.
Think about this, bro. Hey, come on over here. Think about this. You asked me a really great question. You are saying it has to be true to believe it. I don't want to believe things that are false. I want evidence for those things.
Yeah,
but watch this.
Highest probability I could give for the right answer.
Okay, excellent. Yeah. That's the way a Christian thinks, based upon a biblical worldview. Watch. Let's do this. I know you probably run into some Christians that haven't thought through these things. There's no question some Christians haven't thought through their faith. They haven't dug into these things.
He's like, not me, bro. I'm not like those other guys. Talk to me, and that's when you know you have a problem, right? Because the precepts, these guys, right? They come in convinced, once again, not that they can make a valid argument on their own behalf, but that they can destroy yours, right? Before you even get off the ground, whatever. And really, all you have to say is, no, you're the one making a magical claim. Anybody making a magical claim, a supernatural claim, the onus is automatically upon them, right? Like anything that I can demonstrate to you by us taking a walk down the street, right? Gravity, say perhaps, right? I'll show you gravity, here, jump off that, and I can demonstrate it. Whereas like God, miracles, oh no, that's not so easily verified, right? So you're the guy who has to demonstrate the claim that is not innocuous. It's not like none of the naturalistic claims are disputable. And so they have to go back and say, well, what's your reason for this claim? Oh, because it's obvious to all of us. Well, God is obvious to me. So there's something wrong with your brain if God isn't obvious to you as gravity, you know?
Two platforms for a second. You're standing on a platform of atheism. Okay. I'm standing on a platform of the Bible, the biblical worldview. Okay. In your platform, you believe in a universe that is unpurposed, unguided. Our ancestors were bacteria. The universe is not controlled. And mine, I believe we're in the image of God. God is good. There are laws in nature. There are moral laws that are absolutes. That God governs the universe and controls it. And so we have a dependence upon the uniformity of nature.
Can I add one thing?
Sure.
I do believe in laws of nature, but I don't believe that they are completely uniform and will never change. Like, there's been papers, for example, where they're saying that over the expansion of our universe as it's shrunk or expanded over time, these cosmological constants could possibly change, even creating like a natural selection of these constants where you'll create more chaotic universes with different constants where the universe could collapse or expand extremely rapidly, causing nothing
and
to
think
form.
about, so you bring up a great
cosmological constants where...
And so his conversation partner is actually well spoken. He makes good points. He's introducing good points. He's not even prepped for a debate, but he's pretty solid in his arguments here. And as far as like physics is concerned and everything, it's pretty spot on. So kudos to at least giving this guy his 15 minutes, even though he's being steamrolled on your platform. This young guy is making some good arguments. So
it kind of creates a somewhat stable region where we could get things like stars, planets, and they ended up doing like a mathematical proof showing that there's about 1,000-ish sets out of trillions of sets of cosmological constants that could give rise to universes that have planets, stars, etc. So I do believe that there are laws of nature, but I'm open to the physical possibility of them changing at some point, either due to like high energy, high space.
But think about what you'd have to see. You and I would have to see a stable universe, a law-like universe, to understand what is no longer law-like and chaotic, or where things get wonky. Okay. You'd have to first have uniform.
Well, I mean, I can give you examples of that already with like dark matter and stuff like that, where there are areas of the universe that are not observable, and the same laws are not being followed, and you can only kind of guess mathematically what's going on there, right? And so they're making these predictions about black holes and things like that, right? So we don't yet have the technology and the information required to make those judgments. We could say that something abnormal is going on in that reach of space.
And the principle of induction to even study that, to say there's transformation or things are going awry. My point is that you are
repeated measurement.
But you're saying, my point though is when you say the only way to do experimentation is to have the uniformity in nature. You can't experiment, because if we can't depend upon the future being like the past, experimentation
Jinx. Yes, we did make that point at the same time.
Is a moot point.
We could test if the future would be like the past pretty easily. Like
how?
Gravity brought me down just like.
Very good. And so here's what Bertrand Russell.
And you could test it over and over.
Here's what push you down the stairs.
But here's what Bertrand Russell would say to that. He's an atheist.
I mean, I'm talking to the guy over here. Yeah, I've always thought that was a good one when he's like, with solipsism. Anytime they try to argue hard solipsism, it's like, yeah, let me punch you in the face. And then I don't argue for violence, but as an extreme example, I like that one where they say, oh yeah, tell me your brain in the vat after you get hit in the freaking in the nose. It doesn't feel like your brain in a vat at that point. You just have to kind of get shaken up a little bit to experience reality, I guess.
He's one of your own prophets, okay? He's one of.
I don't listen to what they say.
I'm just making a point. Like, this is not from my side, okay? So Bertrand Russell, really well-respected atheist in history, great atheistic philosopher. Okay. And he has a book, Problems in Philosophy, and he talks about the principle of induction.
Okay. He's going to make the same argument over again now? Is this the second time now?
Basically, he would say to what you just said, he would say, that's nonsense, that doesn't answer the question, it doesn't justify it. He says, you can't say well, the future will be like the past because, look, I just did that, and I did it 1,000 times.
Only know because the instant after I just did it, and then it could change theoretically.
In the future.
Right.
He says, I want a justification for how we know the future will be like the past. He says, because all science depends upon it. All reasoning depends upon it. Sure.
I do think that, yes, technically, there's some infinitesimal probability that could happen, and I technically don't have 100% certainty, but...
Yeah, I think, again, that's out of context, because on the other end of that, it's like, I have no reason to believe that it won't be unless it happens, right? Unless that event actually occurs, I have no reason to believe that the future won't be like the past. It would only be in the context of that infinitesimal occurrence that, I would know, right, then and only then do these laws not apply.
If you were to calculate probability, you do it, measure it, do it, measure it, do it, measure it, and you divide it by the amount of times you did it with the amount of times this occurred, you get 99 point, basically infinite nines, basically 100% for every time.
You're making a great argument for the uniformity
in
nature.
Like, while I agree that I can't always 100% know the uniformity as like 100% constant, I can approximate it as, it's like 99 point infinite nines.
But that doesn't actually, bolster the Christian ideology, because Christian ideology says that, this, short span of time ago, that things were not uniform, right? That things did not occur. Like, there's no record of occurrence in the Bible before God bringing this universe into existence, right? So then you extend further back then, God just existed, right? What was God doing out there? Nobody knows, right? It wasn't in the book. I said, well, one day God just existing out there got bored and created the rest of things that exist. It was just him by himself. There was nothing else, right? So that's one claim. And so then the next one says that he brings all things that exist into existence and creates the uniformity that we see today. And that uniformity is constant until God decides arbitrarily to end things. But there are predictions made in the book that says it's going to end at this time, it's going to end at that time. There are these signs and those signs, right? So different things people look for. But it doesn't actually give you a cogent time frame for when God's going to arbitrarily end all things. And it doesn't really sufficiently describe what happens beyond that. All these, the talk of heaven, I guess, is in there, right? Hell is more speculative. So then what happens to all the creatures that don't go to heaven if there is no hell, right? There has to be some type of outcome, an end game. And all these claims that are made, they're very strongly based in the belief in the beginning, that there must have been a starting point, and God must have caused that starting point, right? All other things are contingent upon that, and that is why precept is important to them. That is why they need to continue to have these conversations and try to manipulate the minds of young people to try to perpetuate these ideas. Because it's like, a sweater. You can tug at a piece of it and start to unravel it, but you have to patch up that sweater, and it's very easy to patch up that, sweater of logic and reason with just magic and total bullshit. Doesn't mean anything. It's like anything that you can't explain at this point, blame it on Sky Daddy. Blame it on the magical unicorn, that revolves around the earth or whatever, just some crazy shit,
If you know what you're doing, you're making the argument for the uniformity in nature, that there's laws in nature, we can depend upon the future being like the past. I can run tests and say, probability here with laws here is going to look like this. Now, all of that gets thrown away the moment you do the work, because you don't know that the future is going to follow that.
Okay. So how would
So my point is this, ready? You care about truth.
Okay, yeah.
You believe that nature is law-like and that you can depend upon the future.
I agree.
All of that militates against what you're standing on. You believe that your ancestors were bacteria, that this universe is time and chance acting on matter. Human beings, listen to this, human beings in the worldview you've adopted are nothing more than protoplasm. We are just the same results of evolutionary processes as these rocks. There's no difference in terms of meaning or dignity and value between the human being and that.
Meaning's very subjective. I like things I can like measure or know where they're like, I could have the same life as you, and I'd have no.
My Awesome Life says the idea of God and creation was written thousands of years ago before understanding of science, and they did the best they could for what they could explain at the time, and now we know better. Yeah. And I see no reason why ideas and beliefs shouldn't evolve to conform with the knowledge of the times, right? Not the other way around. I think it's holding back people in societies if we try to adhere to old beliefs and keep, to conform to old ideas is something that holds us back as a species. And I don't think that all of these ideas, just because they were advantageous to us as a species at one point, are necessarily going to always be that way, right? We move from a place where this is useful to where this is no longer useful to us. And if we don't know that, and yet we try to cling to that thing, it could actually be the thing that removes us as being advanced, right? Because I think any advancements really that we have when we advance as groups, as collectives, they're good only as long as they are good for the collective. And once they are broken down to the individual level, right, they're not good anymore. So ideas like this, like economic scarcity, right? If you take on like an insect, like a hive, like mentality, there's no such thing as economic scarcity, because the resources can always be equally divided. It's only when you take on individualism that people say, oh, well, I need more because I work harder than that person. And then economic scarcity becomes a factor. Because in theory, we can always produce enough to sustain ourselves, as long as, like, it wouldn't be an issue if one person didn't think they deserved more than another person.
Meaning from it, and you could live the same life as me and have no meaning.
I'm talking about ultimate meaning, not my own subjective perception. Like, for example, you made a good point. Here's probably what would answer it, is you said, I think it's wrong to kill a human.
Yeah,
okay. But
are you looking for more in this world? Are you ready to be part of something bigger? A door is opening for you in more than 60 countries.
Okay, but
My Awesome Life says, but that to me doesn't discredit Jesus. I think they should be separated. Even Jesus was trying to separate people from being bound to the Old Testament as part of his purpose. I do agree with that in my estimation of it. In some sense, that was part of Jesus's mission. Right, in the old ways of Judaism and everything like that. Again, I think this was useful at the time. That's why I kind of doubt the true historicity of a lot of the Bible. So I think that it was manipulated by the authors over time, and it was politically useful, and it helped to control the society and the way that things were evolving, which was very rapidly. And so I think they used this book to keep people in line when there wasn't really a good system for justice and law and order. So in a way, they're using this, in a multitude of ways to justify rulership, to establish law and order, a pattern of good behavior for what they perceived at the time as being, the issues that needed to be addressed, right? And so it's just a primitive system of control. And I don't know who you are. Message retracted. I don't know who this person is. Okay.
But humans do kill humans.
Yeah.
But you and I know that we can't take a human's life unjustified.
Right. Yeah.
That's an ultimate above all of us. It doesn't matter what that guy says, I believe I can kill this guy. No, the ultimate is above you. It is not just a subjective thing where we got together and decided we think it's wrong to kill humans.
Okay, I've got to pause now. You got all those pulling at your heartstrings commercials cause, I don't know, YouTube comes equipped with them. I don't know who you are. But whatever. That's all right. Welcome.
It is something that stands above all of us.
Okay, so are you basically saying that our morality that emerges from us has to be coming from something else? Because they're animals that exhibit altruism between each other to kind of survive as a pack, right? Like, if you kill your buddy, you'll have less people helping you fight off predators, so you're more likely to die.
Right.
Like, that can even be explained chaotically and, like, evolutionarily, so why do we need...
What I'm saying is that it's based upon an ultimate objective outside of all of us, the very character of God and his own revelation.
I don't think it's outside of all of us. I think it's...
No, I mean, from a Christian perspective. The ultimate is something that exists outside of me. It exists outside of my desires, my wants, my subjective, desires and pursuits or whatever. It's something that's above me. It's ultimate. And so when we talk about humanity from a biblical worldview, you and I have meaning that's inescapable. Because you are in the image of God. I'm in the image of God. They're all in the image of God. And so they have meaning and value apart from even my own perception of it.
That was another thing about Christianity I was confused about. They say we have meaning, but then...
But also, all people are flawed and sinful. So if people are made in the image of God and they are flawed and sinful, then God is flawed and sinful?
What's the meaning that God made for us? Because he's like this grand God. We're like specks on a petri dish to him. He could wipe away the whole universe and do it again. And everything we do is only within this universe.
You nailed it.
So we can't do some greater thing for God. Basically, the purpose of us being made is God's amusement, or like just for God. It'd be like me making little bacteria in a petri dish and then somehow communicating to them that if they're nice to other bacteria, that when they die, I'll take their little bacteria souls and put them in like pure heroin world, basically for like unlimited dopamine.
Well, that's if that were true, that'd be a really weird perspective. That's not the Christian worldview. Okay.
Heaven's joining God, right? It's not like or is it
heaven is not just a place. It's a person. It's God and God's presence. And you asked probably the most important question of all: what in the world is his purpose in creating us? And the answer to that, according to Scripture, is to glorify God and to enjoy him forever.
So he made us to worship him?
He made us to enjoy him, to delight in him, to be enjoyed by God. And the craziest thing, you made a good point, we are so infinitesimally small in this universe. Why would God care? And that's just the glory of the gospel, is that God creates these images of himself, these people to reflect his glory and to know him and to enjoy him forever. And we've all rebelled against him and hated him. We hate his ways. We hate his governance. We don't want his word. We want our own ways. We want to seek our own pleasure and our own gods. We hate him. And though we deserve to be punished by him, he condescends in the person of Christ and lives the life that we failed, dies a death that we deserve for our rebellion, and then he conquers our greatest enemy, death. And he gives the free gift of eternal life and peace with him through faith in Christ, so we can know God and enjoy him forever. And why would the creator of this insane universe care about little specks on a petri dish? That's what's so mind-boggling about the gospel.
Okay, I kind of can understand what you're saying. It's like how a father would give birth to his son. He doesn't have to do it for some greater reason, like for the son to avenge him or something. He just do it because he wants a relationship with him, even if the father's much more intelligent and has much bigger things to do. So okay, that kind of answers my question. But
why would you not want a relationship with like most people, right? Like if according to them, like most people aren't going to be saved, right? Like that's like the common belief. Like most people won't get it. Why would he create all these extra people that he doesn't want a relationship with?
What I'm still confused about is why you're saying uniformity. I'm still not seeing a proof in God. Like I'm seeing proof.
What I'm saying is, I'm saying, ready? Here, maybe this will help. You're helping me to understand what you're articulating.
Let's think it together.
The proof of the Christian God is apart from Him, you can't prove anything.
Wait, could you elaborate on that?
The proof of the Christian God is that apart from Him, you can't prove anything.
Okay.
What is required for proof? Laws of logic,
Right. Yeah.
uniformity in nature,
Okay.
ethical obligations not to lie about the proof.
Okay.
Right? So if I came to you right now and you said, hey, prove God to me, and I just invented something fictional,
Yeah.
and you're like,
This is what you're doing.
dang, that's a good proof. And I'm like, yeah. And I'm lying to you?
The entire time.
That's wrong.
Yeah, I
It's
agree.
absolutely morally wrong. All proof requires laws of logic.
Right there. Jeff Bourbon saying that he's wrong. He's evil. He is demonstrably a doer of evil.
Principle of induction and ethical obligations not to lie.
Okay.
That doesn't comport with atheism. It only comports with the Christian worldview. So if you don't start with God in the question, you can't prove anything at all.
Okay, but how does? Okay, so I agree that. Well, here's the thing: is what are you defining as a God for this, and why would you?
I'm not a God. The true and living God who's revealed Himself.
This whole thing just feels like
in history,
like illogical.
Not a God, my God.
It really
doesn't matter.
I believe in my God.
It doesn't matter.
Now that I believe I've deconstructed your worldview.
Illogical things aren't a problem in an atheistic worldview. Have you ever seen a law of logic?
Yeah.
Where?
Discrete mathematics.
Laws of, like, say, the law of non-contradiction. Where does that exist?
Okay, dude, I'm really.
No, I know. I'm trying to show you. If you have a worldview that's all material, matter and motion, nothing is spiritual, nothing transcendent, right? Nothing immaterial.
Okay.
You can't appeal to immaterial laws in a universe that's matter and motion.
Why?
Well, where's the law of logic?
Dude, okay, I'm trying to think.
It's very big, I know.
But no, it's not.
The law of logic coheres the things that we do observe, right? We didn't. The laws weren't implemented, and then things began to adhere to them, right? Things adhered to them, and then we observed that these laws were in effect, right? So it's the other way around the way knowledge goes. We gain knowledge by the things that we can observe and record and test and repeat, etc., right? This is how we gain understanding. But you're like, oh, no. There had to be something there to be understood before, therefore, no, that's not really the way the argument works, because then you got to prove the thing before, which doesn't matter because you can't demonstrate the thing before.
You're basically saying that unless we 100% know that nothing's going to change in the future.
That's one aspect. That's
the
uniformity in nature aspect, right? Okay. It means you can't justify an appeal to them in the future. You can't justify an appeal to nature being uniform. But we're on the laws of logic question right now. I'm showing you this.
No, you can make an educated guess, right? Like, this is your best educated guess. That's what you.
Without Jesus, you can't prove anything. With your worldview, you can't justify everything you're doing. What I'm saying to you is this, and I mean this with as much love as I can give to you. You are showing that you depend upon God right now for every moment of your life. In order to live your life, you've got to secretly depend upon the God that you know is there. But yet you believe a worldview that totally rejects all of that.
So wait, the uniformity.
That's one aspect.
Okay, so uniformity.
Some life said, oh, no. I already read that.
That I know things will, which I don't fully know. I just think logically that, and then you're saying, where's the laws of logic? Where do those come from? I don't have a good answer for that.
But you depend upon it, don't you?
I feel like you're just saying, and God made it.
No,
you don't
it's not that God made it. It's not the sage just saying God made it. Like, this is matter.
That is, in fact, what he's saying. He's just like, well, I can't actually explain to you how things happen, but I'm going to claim that God made it. And yeah, nothing. He's not actually refuting your argument.
Okay, I can touch this. You and I, made of matter. Okay, we get this. We can test this, observe this, all the rest. It's a material universe. If all that we have is a materialist universe, sorry, how is this gripping on us? Here, stand right here. Yeah, sorry. If all we have is a material universe, then how do we appeal to immaterial entities like laws of logic or laws of math? Where are those at?
Those like once again, that's based on things that we do, calculations that we make that work, right? When we do things, like engineering, like, I can build a building yay tall with yay many. So once they do that and they implement it and it works, and we say, oh, okay, that's known, right? it's so if somebody prays so many times a day, and the laws of chance says that if you pray X amount of times a day, and then something happens, then it worked, right? And so so what we did with like logic and math, right? The logic applies so far as it is useful to us, and okay, that's fine, right? But the instances with prayer where it's useful to more people, right? It's not useful to most people. Most people who believe it because it worked for somebody else, not because it worked for them. If you listen to their claim, where they would say that it worked for somebody else and that affirmed their belief. Right? So it's not actually based on their own experience. That's the difference.
Somebody could say one. Somebody could say to it. They could say,
well, wait, why do you need God to prove that I can use math for things to kind of deduct?
If I have a Christian worldview, okay, God has spoken, he told us about himself, his governance of the world, what he's like. The Christian worldview can actually justify laws of logic because it reflects the very thinking of God. As an example, God cannot lie. God cannot engage in logical contradiction. That's part of the biblical worldview. And so we base our belief that laws of logic are real, that they're sustainable, that they apply to me here and to somebody in Iceland.
I feel like he does break kind of the laws of like logic, in the sense that he can be in multiple places at once.
He's omnipresent.
Right, so like he can be he has all these features of him that are very immaterial and very
good. That's it. You nailed it. You nailed it. The Christian worldview has a justification for the immaterial. If you give Jesus up, you don't have a justification for immaterial. All you have is matter.
Okay.
Okay, over 3 hours now on the stream, and I feel like we haven't really gained any ground, We've listened to all kinds of crazy claims without justifications. We've argued for and against the claims. But has any new knowledge been gleaned? I don't know. I'm not sure. What I do know is I have to get the laundry out of the dryer. And beyond that, I cannot say. And I will end the stream now, and I will leave you with this message. Be well, be kind, and stay trusty.